Chapter 2496. Puff. Seeing that the situation was not right, the sea serpent spat out an even stronger sea serpent dragon aura. This was its trump card. After spitting out this sea serpent dragon aura, its cultivation level dropped from mid-level high god to low-level high god. Its aura was obviously weakened. Break. This time, Night Sorrow did not dodge or attack in the face of the sea serpent dragon's aura. Gathering his divine yuan qi, he transformed it into divine yuan qi and let out a loud roar. The sea serpent dragon's aura was shattered before it could form any mirages. Seeing that the situation was not good, the sea serpent dragon fled frantically. Where do you think you're going? Yishang roared and used the vanishing shadow void escape to chase after him. The sea serpent dragon's most powerful ability was to spit out its sea serpent dragon aura. Now that this aura was no longer effective against Night Sorrow, it was unrealistic for it to escape. However, when Night Sorrow was 10,000 miles away, the sea serpent dragon's scissor-like tail suddenly glowed and whipped fiercely. You want to whip me? Dream on. Facing the sea serpent dragon's huge tail, Night Sorrow raised his samsara halberd and struck. The sea serpent dragon's tail shattered like glass, causing it to howl in pain in the water. If it weren't for the blue phoenix armor, I might have been killed by you. Now go to hell. The sea serpent dragon's aura was no longer effective, and its tail had been shattered. It could not escape Night Sorrow's pursuit. Although Night Sorrow was the virtuous feather god, he would not show mercy to a monster that wanted to kill him. He gathered his divine essence and struck the sea serpent dragon's head with the forbidden spear. He wanted to penetrate its divine sea. Lord, please spare me. I attacked you because I was loyal to someone. At this moment, the sea serpent dragon suddenly turned into a girl in green and knelt in front of Night Sorrow. Loyal to someone? Is someone trying to harm me? The girl in green had a round face with some baby fat. She did not look like a treacherous person. Night Sorrow withdrew his samsara halberd and interrupted the fatal attack. It's not about harming my lord, it's about harming anyone who enters this formation. At this point, the chubby girl shook her head and said, No, that's not right. It's not harm. It's to make all the cultivators who enter this array sleep for 10,000 years. Then why did you attack me just now? Night Sorrow's tone was a bit cold. Night Sorrow. It's because you didn't fall asleep and entered the second part of the test that you were attacked. In fact, the sneak attack on you was augmented by Lord Divine Lord Jinyuan. I don't have such strong offensive power. Given its strength, there was no way it would be able to cause the Azure Phoenix battle armor to drop a grade. Lord God Lords is Lord. God. I is God. Is God divine God. God God. God is God level is God is God. Isn't it a little too hard to wait for you to leave after breaking through to the God King realm? But since it's Divine Lord Jinyuan's idea, I won't pursue the matter of the sneak attack. Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow sighed. Divine Lord Jinyuan had already died in battle. How could there be any possibility of him breaking through to the Divine King level? Thinking of this, he asked, How many years have you been guarding this formation? Yes. There should be. I can't remember clearly, I can't count them. The sea serpent, who had transformed into a chubby girl, counted with her fingers and did not understand. She knelt and said, Anyway, this cave abode exists. I've always been in this array formation. Get up and talk. It's quite pitiful to keep guarding here. Night Sorrow condensed his divine essence power and helped the sea serpent that had transformed into a young girl up. He said, The key is that Sir Divine Lord has already fallen in the battle back then. Why don't you leave with me? If you wait here, you will never see him. Divine Lord Jinyuan had already perished. Night Sorrow did not wish to see the sea serpent, who was not very scheming, trapped in such an array formation forever. For any living being, waiting in such a dark formation was meaningless. No. Sir Divine Lord is not dead. He's so powerful. He won't die. I'll always wait here for him. However, the sea serpent shook her head stubbornly when she heard Night Sorrow's words. She took a few steps back in disbelief. All right, since you don't want to leave, you can cultivate here. If I see Divine Lord again, I'll ask him to come and talk to you. Seeing the sea serpent's firm attitude, Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. He had the power of merit, and could tell that the sea serpent was not lying. He thought that whoever started the trouble should end it. If he saw Divine Lord Jinyuan's shadow again, he would ask him to come and talk to the sea serpent. Then Night Sorrow asked, "My friend is still sleeping soundly. Is there a way to wake her up quickly?" Night Sorrow did not want Yun Tianyi to sleep for tens of thousands of years. That would definitely affect the final battle for the cave abode. Yes. I'll put away the sea serpent's aura and she will wake up. In addition, here's a drop of my tear. Sir, you can drop it into your eye. This way, you will be able to see through all kinds of illusions in the future. The sea serpent put away the sea serpent's aura in the small world and handed a drop of sparkling tear to Night Sorrow. Sir, I can only produce one drop of my tear in a lifetime. This is a reward arranged by Sir Divine Lord. You deserve it. Since it's Sir Divine Lord's arrangement, I'll accept it. The sea serpent's tear had such an effect. It was definitely priceless. Night Sorrow was delighted. After all, he and Yun Tianyi would go deep into the cave abode, and might encounter countless illusions. If they could see through all of them, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Sir, you can drop it directly into one eye without any side effects. When it reaches a certain level, not only will you be able to see through all illusions, you can even see through other people's unique skills and imitate them directly. The sea serpent explained slowly with a hint of pride in her tone. If what she said was true, then the value of the sea serpent's tear was too great. How do I level it up? The sea serpent's words made Night Sorrow's heart skip a beat. What he lacked the most now was various unique skills. If he could really see through other people's exquisite unique skills, it would be too heaven-defying. When Sir cultivates, the sea serpent's eye will automatically absorb divine essence and level up. However, with Sir's current realm, even if the sea serpent's eye is raised to a certain level, you can only see through the feather god's unique skills. The round-faced sea serpent explained seriously. No matter what, thank you. This is a divine soul recovery pill. Take it quickly. I'm sorry for injuring you just now. The backlash of the 7-star violent alcade came. Night Sorrow took 2 divine soul recovery pills and handed 2 to the sea serpent. The effect of the sea serpent's tear was really heaven-defying. He was very grateful. However, now that he couldn't use his spatial Dharma artifact, he couldn't think of anything to give in return. He could only remember it silently. Thank you, sir. The sea serpent, who had taken 2 divine soul recovery pills, smiled sweetly at Night Sorrow. When she smiled, her face became even rounder. Chapter 2497. The Divine Emperor gave me the name Xinyuan. Xinyuan replied with a smile. My lord, your friend has woken up. I'll go back to the bottom of the sea to cultivate. Xinyuan bowed to Night Sorrow and turned back into the sea serpent, swimming to the bottom of the sea. Okay, go ahead. I'll come back to see you. Night Sorrow waved to Xinyuan and rose to the surface of the sea, returning to Yun Tianyi. At this time, Yun Tianyi had just woken up. There was a trace of confusion in her eyes, as if she had forgotten how she came here. The sea serpent's aura is gone. Hurry up and recover. We'll continue later. Night Sorrow said to Yun Tianyi. Then he dripped the sea serpent's tear into his left eye and slowly absorbed it. After absorbing the sea serpent's tear, Night Sorrow soon saw the center of the illusory formation and left with Yun Tianyi. What's going on there? After leaving the illusory formation, Yun Tianyi's aura had returned to normal, but she had no idea what was going on. There was the sea serpent's aura in that formation. That's why you fell asleep. But I've broken it. Night Sorrow didn't say Xinyuan. After saying that, he suddenly grabbed Yun Tianyi and said, Stop. Let's go another way. There was a maze-like illusory formation in front of them. With the help of the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow avoided it and didn't walk in. However, just as they were about to go around it, a cold voice sounded. Yun Tianyi, it's really you. It turned out to be Ji Hao, Lung Ningxin, and Shangguan Hai, who had just come out of the illusory formation. When Shangguan Hai saw Yun Tianyi and Yi Shang, he immediately shouted sinisterly. His entire body exuded an intense killing intent. Not only Shangguan Hai, but also Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. Obviously, They wanted to kill Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi without any hesitation. They were very confident in their strength, so they didn't bother to hide it. Shangguanhai, it's you. Upon seeing Shangguanhai, Yun Tianyi's face immediately turned ugly. Her father had been suppressed by the Shangguan family of Longqi Mountain. Yun Tianyi hated everyone in the Shangguan family to the bone. However, their strength had always been about the same. If not, Yun Tianyi would have thought of a way to kill him long ago. Yun Tianyi, oh Yun Tianyi, how arrogant are you to enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's abode with a piece of trash at the mid-level Divine Feather Realm? Do you think it's so easy to barge into an invincible Divine Lord's cave abode? Shangguanhai, who was sizing up Night Sorrow, found that he was a mid-level feather god, and immediately laughed at him. Hee, if he's trash, then you're worse than a pig or a dog. You're trash with eyes but no sight. Yun Tianyi couldn't help but laugh at Shangguanhai, who was ranked 97th on the God of Feathers list, when he ridiculed Night Sorrow, who was ranked at least in the top 30. Yun Tianyi, you're courting death. This is the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave abode, not a sect. No one can protect you. Shangguanhai, who had been ridiculed, immediately had a murderous look on his face. At this time Ji Hao, who was standing to the side, said impatiently, Shangguanhai, what nonsense are you talking about? Those who stand in our way must die. Hurry up and do it. You go and kill that mid-level feather god. Okay. Shangguanhai immediately took out a simple saber and slashed at Night Sorrow fiercely. You're not an invincible feather god, but you dare to come here to try your luck. I really don't know how you got here. Now go to hell. I really don't know how you survived until now with your eyesight. Night Sorrow didn't dodge Shangguanhai's attack at all. He activated the essence smoke in Star's mighty body and directly slapped out with his palm. Shangguanhai's strength was about the same as Yun Tianyi's. They were no match for each other at all. Night Sorrow didn't bother to talk nonsense with such an opponent. He just slapped him to death. Aunt, you're really courting. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't dodge at all, Shangguanhai wanted to shout that he was courting death. However, before he could say the word, he was slapped into ashes, and his soul was destroyed. Night Sorrow didn't like Wuxin and the people from Longqi Mountain at all. He didn't show any mercy at all. At this time, Lung Ningxin was attacking Yun Tianyi. She was much stronger than Yun Tianyi, so she suppressed her in an instant. Yun Tianyi, who was attacked by Lung Ningxin continuously, couldn't resist Lung Ningxin's ice seal at all. Her movements became very slow, as if she was moving in slow motion. Ji Hao was definitely a ruthless person. When Lung Ningxin restrained Yun Tianyi, he, who had a strong body, immediately launched a sneak attack, trying to smash Yun Tianyi's head. However, Night Sorrow had already killed Shangguanhai. He turned around to help and slapped Ji Hao away with the strength of his body. What? You're so strong. Where's Shangguanhai? Is he dead? Ji Hao, who was very confident in the strength of his body, was sent flying by Yi Shang's slap. He immediately revealed a shocked expression. He didn't realize that Shangguanhai had been killed until then. His surprise immediately turned into shock. Ji Hao didn't expect that a middle-level god of feathers could be so powerful. He killed Shangguanhai, who was on the God of Feathers list, with one move. Also, his body was stronger than his. He asked in a cold voice, "Who are you?" "The one who's going to kill you." They were already fighting, and Ji Hao wanted to kill Yun Tianyi. Night Sorrow wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with him. He took the Samsara halberd from his back and directly attacked. With the help of the vanishing shadow void escape, the attack was so fast that Ji Hao couldn't dodge it. "No. Ningxin, help me." Ji Hao immediately sensed the aura of death from Night Sorrow's attack. He took out a long sword and shouted for help. 1,000 miles of ice. In fact, Lung Ningxin had been paying attention to the situation even before Ji Hao said anything. She immediately performed her unique skill and used her god realm to slow down Night Sorrow. In an instant, the surrounding air seemed to be frozen. Yun Tianyi was almost frozen into an ice sculpture. He wanted to help, but he couldn't, which made him very unhappy, because this time, he had become a spectator again. He was going to be a hindrance. Yun Tianyi's pride was hurt, but Night Sorrow's action was only slightly delayed, because he had activated the power of merit. With the help of the power of merit, Night Sorrow's god realm directly broke through Lung Ningxin's suppression. The Samsara halberd pierced toward Jihao's dantian without any hindrance. Faced with Night Sorrow's attack, Jihao felt like he was locked on. He couldn't dodge at all, so he could only brace himself and use his long sword to block the attack. With a boom, Jihao was sent flying. Jihao's strength was much weaker than Yin Jiannan's. Moreover, Yin Jiannan could block some of Night Sorrow's attacks because of the Crimson Lotus. Naturally, he couldn't block them. Everlasting Hail. Just then, Lung Ningxin's aura suddenly changed. It became several times stronger as she performed another unique skill. Countless icy raindrops immediately appeared in the sky. Like transparent blades of ice, they continuously stabbed towards Yi Sorrow. How dare you call yourself everlasting? Faced with the endless hail, Night Sorrow couldn't chase after Jihao anymore. He raised the Samsara halberd and performed Inferno Demon Subduing. With the support of his powerful strength, Inferno Demon Subduing turned into a fire phoenix and melted all the hail in an instant. Damn it, he's so strong. Lung Ningxin's expression was cold. She didn't expect Night Sorrow to be so strong. Knowing that she had no chance of winning in a one-on-one fight, she transmitted her voice to Jihao, "Run or fight. I'm going to kill him." Jihao, who was sent flying by Night Sorrow, replied unwillingly. "All right, then let's perform a joint attack." Although Lung Ningxin was cold and heartless, she was Jihao's cultivation partner. They had been together for many years. Chapter 2498. Jihao and Lung Ningxin had great teamwork and were very powerful. They had once used this joint attack to kill the top 30 fighters on the God of Feathers list. Not many people knew about this, so Night Sorrow didn't know about it. Night Sorrow didn't kill Lung Ningxin when he had the upper hand. Instead, he went to Yun Tianyi and helped him get rid of Lung Ningxin's ice. Yun Tianyi's qi, blood, and divine origin energy were all frozen. It took him a while to recover. This battle was a big blow to him. He realized the real gap between him and the fighters on the God of Feathers list. "Brother Yi, I've dragged you down again in this battle. Luckily, you're strong enough. Otherwise, we would have been killed." Yun Tianyi, whose face was gradually returning to normal, cupped his hands at Night Sorrow and thanked him. "I don't think they're that simple. Leave the battle and watch from the sidelines. If there's a chance, help them immediately." Night Sorrow kept an eye on Jihao and Lung Ningxin while he was treating Yun Tianyi. He didn't let his guard down. Jihao and Lung Ningxin gathered together while Night Sorrow was treating Yun Tianyi. After communicating for a while, the two of them cooperated and attacked Night Sorrow together. "You're an elite among the God of Feathers if you can force us to use our joint attack. But you're going to die today." Jihao, who had been suppressed in the battle, was very frustrated. He shouted while flying, "Are they going to fight me in close combat? Good timing." Jihao and Lung Ningxin didn't use any secret techniques. Instead, they flew toward Night Sorrow, which surprised him. It was Night Sorrow's first time fighting someone in close combat after he left the Endless Bone Realm. Facing the two menacing opponents, he reactivated the Essence Chi Smoke Signal and the Star's Mighty Body, as well as the power of merits. His figure flashed as he used the Vanishing Shadow Escape technique to confront them. Although Yi Shang's body was currently at the intermediate Feather God level, his body had absorbed a large amount of Genesis Essence and was no weaker than an ordinary lower high god. He naturally did not fear two Feather God level opponents. He who did not have many absolute skills liked close combat very much. "Haha. It seems that you are very confident in the strength of your body." Seeing Night Sorrow approaching, Jihao laughed maniacally and transmitted a message to Lung Ningxin. Let's begin." "Okay, same as last time." Lung Ningxin nodded and immediately used an even more powerful ice element technique to freeze the surrounding space as soon as she got close to Yi Shang. At the same time, Jihao and Lung Ningxin took out their swords and performed their joint attack. Frost Bamboo Rain Sword. Between the heavens and the earth, countless rays of chilling sword chi were released. These sword chis were controlled by Lung Ningxin. They cut through the air and attacked Night Sorrow continuously. This was much more powerful than her infinite frost rain. Faced with so many sword chi in this almost frozen space, Night Sorrow temporarily stopped in his tracks. He stood in the air and used Inferno Demon Subduing to resist the rain of sword chi. The Inferno Demon Subduing's flames were very hot and gradually melted the frozen space. However, this time, it did not completely incinerate the sword chis controlled by Lung Ningxin. The sword chis controlled by Lung Ningxin were still draining Night Sorrow's energy. At this moment, Ji Hao, whose aura and physical strength had obviously improved greatly, put away his sword and took the opportunity to approach Night Sorrow and attack him crazily. How did the two of them increase their strength by several times at the same time? At this moment, Ji Hao's physical strength had increased by more than 10 times compared to before. On the other side, Lung Ningxin, who was using her unique ice skills and frost bamboo rain sword chis to interfere with the fight, her aura also increased greatly. Night Sorrow felt more pressure fighting the two of them under such circumstances than when he faced Yin Jiannan. This made him curious. He could not figure out how the two of them did it. Although he could not figure it out and felt the pressure, Night Sorrow was not completely at a disadvantage. While he was fighting Ji Hao, he found the right opportunity to attack Lung Ningxin. Samsara Strike. However, faced with the Reincarnation Spear, which was almost unavoidable, Lung Ningxin appeared next to Ji Hao with a telepathic thought. She successfully used this teleportation to dodge the attack. This was the first time Night Sorrow's Samsara Halberd missed its target in the God Realm, which surprised him. If that attack had hit Lung Ningxin, she would have been severely injured. In that case, Night Sorrow would have been able to deal with the encirclement. Die. After dodging Night Sorrow's attack, Lung Ningxin immediately left Ji Hao's side. Ji Hao, on the other hand, attacked Night Sorrow again. At this moment, Night Sorrow had used Essence Smoke, Star's dominating body, and Power of Merit to gain a slight advantage. However, he could not defeat Ji Hao immediately, because every time he used a killer move, Ji Hao would teleport to Lung Ningxin's side. The two of them could teleport to each other's side at will, which was naturally faster than Night Sorrow's attacks. This is troublesome. How did they do it? Night Sorrow's Vanishing Shadow Void release was powerful, but it was not as powerful as Ji Hao's and Lung Ningxin's teleportation, which made him feel powerless. Every time he used a killer move, it was as if he was hitting cotton. However, although the Blue Phoenix armor had been damaged by Xin Yuan's dragon tail, it still had the defensive power of a lower great god. With the armor and his own amazing defensive power, Night Sorrow was not injured. He did not use 7-star Rampage unless he was in a desperate situation. During the battle, he had been carefully observing Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin's cooperation, and analyzing how they worked together. However, he did not learn anything. Damn it! When did such a monster appear in the Heartless Realm? Ji Hao, who was fighting Night Sorrow, was actually more uncomfortable than Night Sorrow. It was the first time he had met a feather god whose body was stronger than his. At this point, Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin had already thought of retreating. After all, there was nothing good around them. This battle was purely a battle of wills. They did not want to use more powerful life-saving methods. At this moment, Night Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. He noticed that his left eye was absorbing divine origin force on its own. He immediately remembered what Xin Yuan had said. Thinking of the Mirage Dragon's eye, Night Sorrow immediately cooperated with his left eye to absorb the divine origin force even faster. Soon Night Sorrow's eye glowed. He saw that there was an invisible line between Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. It must be this line that connects Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. After analyzing the situation, Night Sorrow continued to attack Ji Hao while sending a message to Yin Tianyi. Cooperate with me later. Attack the spot between Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. Okay. I will use my most powerful technique. Suddenly receiving Night Sorrow's message, Yin Tianyi, who had been watching on the sidelines, immediately perked up. However, he did not understand why Night Sorrow wanted him to attack the void. Now is the time. Attack now. Don't use your most powerful technique. Just be quick. Night Sorrow, who was fighting Ji Hao, suddenly gave the order. Chapter 2499. Under Night Sorrow's command, Yin Tianyi slashed at the line between Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, as if she had the eyes of a mirage dragon. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin were trying to figure out a way to escape. They didn't expect Yin Tianyi to slash at the line between them. In an instant, The line between them was cut off by Yun Tiany's sword Qi. Pfft! Before Night Sorrow could attack again, Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. The frost bamboo rain swords in the air were all shattered in an instant. The two of them had obviously suffered a fierce backlash. Forbidden Spear. At this moment, Night Sorrow found an opportunity to condense his divine essence energy and shoot a forbidden spear at Ji Hao. The spear was so powerful that it shook the void. "Husband, use your life-saving talisman," Lung Ningxin shouted at the critical moment. She was afraid that Ji Hao wouldn't be willing to use their most powerful talisman. Go to hell. However, she had underestimated Ji Hao's determination. In the face of a life-and-death situation, Ji Hao didn't hesitate at all. He used his half-step Divine Lord talisman and attacked Night Sorrow. What a powerful talisman! This is the full power attack of a half-step Divine Lord. A half-step Divine Lord's attack was equivalent to a half-step Divine Lord's ultimate technique. It was different from a body-refining Divine Lord's attack. After the talisman appeared, it immediately locked onto Night Sorrow, making him feel a chill down his spine. Run! That was Night Sorrow's only thought. He could feel that if he was hit by the talisman, he would lose half his life even if he didn't die. It would take years for him to recover. Ah! You want to run? Do you think you can? The full power attack of a half-step Divine Lord isn't something a mid-level Divine Feather God like you can dodge. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate at all. He activated the 7-star Berserk Light Shaking Art, adjusting his body to its peak condition in order to dodge this attack. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin both smiled cruelly when they saw Yishang running away like a madman. In their opinion, although they had used a life-saving talisman, killing a strong enemy was still beneficial for their trip to the cave. What they didn't know was that there were far more invincible feather gods than they had imagined. Moreover, it wasn't just one or two. Brother Yi, be careful. Seeing Night Sorrow crazily flee, Yun Tiany felt his heart skip a beat. The aura of a half-step Divine Lord's all-out attack was so great that it caused his mind to tremble. While reminding Night Sorrow, Yun Tiany didn't hesitate at all. She used a secret technique that had a huge backlash and fled the scene. There was no doubt that she would die if she faced Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin alone. She had no choice but to flee. Damn it! That piece of trash Yun Tiany got away. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, who had been watching Night Sorrow, realized that Yun Tiany had used a secret technique to escape. It was already too late for them to chase after her. Ji Hao cursed angrily. Lung Ningxin smiled coldly and said, "You said it yourself. He's just a piece of trash. It doesn't matter whether he escapes or not. Let's just watch the show." That's true. Even if he meets Yun Tiany 200 times, he won't be able to defeat her. Ji Hao nodded and continued watching the Divine Talisman chase after Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, who had activated the 7-star Berserk Light Shaking Art, used the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape Art to escape at an astonishing speed. However, there were countless arrays nearby. Although he had the help of the Mirage Dragon's Eye, his speed was still affected. He couldn't maintain his top speed all the time. Soon, the Divine Talisman with a terrifying aura was closing in on him. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, who were watching from afar, laughed out loud. They were looking forward to seeing Night Sorrow being destroyed by the Divine Talisman. I can't take it head-on. Why don't I hide in the array set up by the Divine Lord, and use the array to consume some of the Divine Talisman's power? Night Sorrow, who was running for his life, realized that he couldn't escape. Suddenly, an idea came to him. He used the Mirage Dragon's Eye to find a path, and went into the maze that Ji Hao and the others had just come out of. Boom! With a loud sound, the Divine Talisman heavily bombarded the array. It blasted a huge hole in the labyrinth formation that had astonishing defensive power. The Divine Talisman, which had lost most of its power, continued to chase after Night Sorrow, but it wasn't as powerful as before. After using the 7-star Violent Light Shaking Art, Night Sorrow adjusted himself to his strongest state. He no longer tried to dodge. He used the Samsara Halberd and unleashed the Samsara Strike, slamming it against the Divine Talisman. In an instant, the Divine Talisman was destroyed. Night Sorrow and the Samsara Halberd didn't suffer much damage. The maze had a huge hole. Night Sorrow flew out of the maze to seek revenge on Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. Run! Run! Use your secret techniques. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, who hadn't killed Night Sorrow even after using their trump cards, were scared out of their wits when they saw that Night Sorrow was fine. They didn't dare to stay any longer, and used their secret techniques to escape. You're lucky. I'll kill you the next time I see you. With the help of the sea serpent eye, Night Sorrow could catch up with Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. However, he found that Yun Tianyi was in a bad condition, and immediately chased after her. The unlucky Yun Tianyi was teleported into the territory of a group of bear-shaped skeletal puppets. These puppets were all low-level high gods. Yun Tianyi had used her secret technique and suffered a great backlash. She couldn't resist at all. Fortunately, Night Sorrow had hurried over at this moment. Taking advantage of the fact that the 7-star berserk had yet to dissipate, he unleashed his might and smashed all of the skeletal puppets to death. Brother Yi, it's you who saved me again. I don't know what to say. I'll follow you in the future. If it weren't for Night Sorrow, Yun Tianyi would have been killed in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. As an expert on the Feather God list, he wasn't used to this kind of situation. Night Sorrow patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "You don't have to follow me. Protect Haibei City well in the future." Brother Yi, don't worry. I, Yun Tianyi, am rooted in Haibei City. Even if I die in battle, I won't abandon this city. One day, I'll restore it to its former glory. After the rise of the divine King Wuxin, Haibei City had been suppressed very badly. This caused everyone in the Dark Alliance to hold their breaths, especially Yun Tianyi, whose father was suppressed by Langqi Mountain. I believe in you. You'll do it sooner or later. This is a divine soul recovery pill. Take it quickly and recover. After Yun Tianyi suffered a backlash, Night Sorrow, who had taken 2 divine soul recovery pills, handed one to him to help him recover quickly. Thank you, Brother Yi. By the way, I haven't asked about your background. Where are you from, Brother Yi? Yun Tianyi asked as the two of them were recovering and weren't in a hurry. At this point he had gone through life and death with Night Sorrow. He wasn't as distant as before, so he blurted out these words. I'm from the lower realm. I just ascended to the God realm not long ago. The place where I ascended was near Haibei City. I haven't been to other areas yet. Night Sorrow didn't hold back and slowly revealed his background. You're an ascender. Yun Tianyi was surprised to hear Night Sorrow's words. He said, no wonder Brother Yi has the power of virtue protecting him. It seems like he's from the lower realm. Are there other ascenders in the God realm? Night Sorrow, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground and adjusting his state, asked curiously. Chapter 2500. Yes, of course. Ascenders who come to the God realm usually rise very quickly, and many of them make a name for themselves. The strongest person in the God realm now, Sovereign Tianyi, is from the lower realm. After saying this, Yun Tianyi smiled and said, maybe Brother Yi can also become a sovereign in the future. When that happens, I, Yun Tianyi, can do whatever I want in the God realm. The sovereign position? Haha, I hope so. It was a little far from that level, but Night Sorrow's mind was very firm, and he felt that nothing was impossible. He asked, can you introduce me to the sovereigns of the God realm? Of course. While recovering, Yun Tianyi said, currently, there are a total of 7 known sovereigns in the God realm. They are Sovereign Tianyi, Sovereign Clear Sound, Sovereign Buddha, Sovereign Illustrious, Sovereign Dark Moon, Sovereign All Heaven, and 7-Star. Now most of the God realm is under their control. As for whether there are other sovereigns, I'm not sure. These sovereigns have varying reputations. After that, Yun Tianyi talked about the reputations of the 7 sovereigns, so that Night Sorrow had a certain understanding. As for the Divine King, who was under the 7 sovereigns, Yun Tianyi couldn't be familiar with him, so he didn't mention this matter. Now that he knew that Night Sorrow was an ascender, he had no background at all. Yun Tianyi then talked about some famous sects in the God realm. The strongest person in some sects was the Divine King, and some were even taken care of by the sovereigns. He suggested that Night Sorrow join such a powerful sect, make a name for himself, and be taken care of by the sect. After all, the God realm was very big, and there were many strong people. If one didn't have a background, it wouldn't be easy even if they were talented. I will seriously consider this matter. Hearing Yun Tianyi's suggestion, Knight Sorrow nodded seriously. For someone like him who didn't have a background, this might be the best choice. Otherwise, if he offended the Divine Lord or the Divine King, he could easily be killed. Sects were different from God's domain. Knight Sorrow could accept joining a sect and learning from a master. However, joining God's domain and becoming someone's subordinate was something he would never consider. If he were to join a sect, he would be able to receive the care of experts and find a peaceful place for his family. This was something he did not have the ability to do. If Brother Yi doesn't mind, I can recommend you to join my... As Yun Tianyi spoke up to this point, she suddenly exclaimed in surprise and said, I seem to feel something calling out to me. My heart is throbbing nonstop. Could it be a demonic spell? Knight Sorrow, who had completely recovered, asked doubtfully. It doesn't look like it. I feel like my blood is surging, as if I'm being summoned by something familiar. Yun Tianyi got up. Guided by her inner feelings, she kept walking forward. Be careful. Knight Sorrow, who was following behind Yun Tianyi, used the sea serpent's eye to observe the path he was taking. The two of them traveled more than 1,500 kilometers together and killed 2 lower-level high god skeletal puppets. I can feel it. The thing that led me here is in the grave. After traveling another 250 kilometers, Yun Tianyi finally stopped. In front of him was a very inconspicuous grave. The aura in the grave is very peaceful. There's no danger. It should be an opportunity. Knight Sorrow observed with the sea serpent's eye and didn't sense any dangerous aura. Since it's an opportunity, I'll give it to Brother Yi. It's also a way to repay you for saving my life. Yun Tianyi's heart kept throbbing, but she didn't make a move. She was prepared to give the opportunity to Knight Sorrow. In response, Knight Sorrow smiled and refused. This belongs to you. I won't steal a friend's opportunity. Hearing this, Yun Tianyi wanted to say something, but a nearly transparent soul suddenly floated out of the grave. This soul looked somewhat similar to Yun Tianyi, but it had a beard and looked much calmer. Your grandpa? Seeing this soul, Yun Tianyi's voice immediately trembled. Yun Changha had gone missing when Yun Tianyi was very young. The Yun family thought that he had been subdued by someone. They didn't expect him to appear here, and he was already in a soul state. Obviously he had fallen. Tianyi, it's me. Yun Changha's soul shadow revealed a smile. He handed him a drop of crystal clear blood essence and said, This is the blood essence of our Yun family. It came from the Divine King. Now Grandpa will give it to you. From now on, you're the new patriarch of the Yin family. Grandpa, how did you fall here? How can I save you? Yun Tianyi, who didn't reach out to take the blood essence, knelt on the ground and asked in a trembling voice. Back then, when Grandpa had just broken through to the invincible divine feather realm, I was chased by people from Longqi Mountain. By chance, I escaped here. I didn't expect to fall here. Grandpa's soul wasn't destroyed to be resurrected, but to stay here and wait for the descendants of our Yin family. Now that I've given you the blood essence, Grandpa can die in peace. Yun Changha's soul phantom was very weak and was about to dissipate. It wasn't that he didn't want to be resurrected, but there was no time to wait for a turn of events. Child, tell Grandpa about your family's situation. Yun Tianyi was a little sad. Yun Changha said with a smile. He wanted to hear about his family's situation in his last moments. Grandpa. Yun Tianyi, who knew that it was impossible to save Yun Changha, couldn't help but cry. Choking with sobs, she told Grandpa about the current situation of the Yun family. She swore, Grandpa, don't worry. I'll definitely save Father. Good child, Grandpa knows that you're filial. However, with our Yun family's ability, going against the Divine King Wuxin is undoubtedly a dead end. Yun Changha sighed and said, Grandpa suggests that you take the Yun family out of Haibei City, out of the Wuxin divine domain, and even out of the territory ruled by the Dark Moon. Find another way to develop. Grandpa, I can move my family out of the Wuxin divine domain, but I'll never leave. If it wasn't for Wuxin's suppression, Yun Changha wouldn't have fallen in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, and his father wouldn't have been suppressed. Yin Tiany's hatred for Wuxin had become his motivation to become stronger. Sigh. If that's the case, you should absorb the blood essence well and quickly break through to the High God realm, or even the Divine Lord realm. Yin Changhe wanted to continue to persuade and say a few words to Night Sorrow, but his soul phantom couldn't hold on any longer. After saying that, it completely disappeared. Seeing her grandfather's soul disappearing before her eyes, Yin Tiany, who was holding the blood essence in her hand, burst into tears. My condolences. If you don't want the Yin family to live in Wuxin's shadow forever, the only thing you need to do is to become stronger, so strong that you can go against Wuxin. Yin Tiany cried very sadly. Night Sorrow, who also cherished his family, could empathize with her. After a moment of silence, he spoke to persuade her. Yes. I must quickly become stronger and not let my family continue to be oppressed. Wuxin, I'll definitely kill you with my own hands. Hearing the persuasion, Yin Tiany wiped her tears and sat on the ground, absorbing the Divine King's blood essence in her palm. Don't do it here. Night Sorrow wanted to stop her, but it was too late. Chapter 2501. Soon Yin Tiany, who had absorbed the Divine King's blood essence, emitted a thick blood aura. This was clearly too rash. Because the blood aura was too exuberant, the aura that soared into the sky could not be concealed at all. In an instant, the entire plain was alarmed. Not long after, a group of cultivators was attracted. It was Qingqingzi Mingju and Huang Lai and Yin Songping, who were ranked 41st and 48th respectively. They had just come out of a trapping array when they immediately discovered the blood aura that soared into the sky. It seems like someone is absorbing the blood essence. Let's hurry over and take a look. If the opponent isn't strong, we'll directly snatch it. Standing thousands of miles away, Huang Lai noticed the scene of blood light soaring into the sky and brought the others closer. When they were still 1,500 miles away, they saw Yin Tiany absorbing the blood essence, and only Night Sorrow was protecting her. Huang Lai immediately said excitedly, "This is the Divine King's blood essence. If we can snatch it, there is hope for the future Divine King. Let's go." To the invincible feather god, there were not many things that could interest him. The Divine King's blood essence was clearly one of them. Young sect master, don't be rash. Think about it. When we were at the top of the mountain just now, we saw the two of them being chased by Yin Jiannan and the others. Now that they are here intact, it proves that their strength is very likely not inferior to Yin Jiannan and the others. Yin Tiany's strength is not considered strong, which means that Night Sorrow is definitely not easy to deal with. Seeing that Huang Lai was about to make a move, Qingqingzi hurriedly advised. Hearing this, Huang Lai stopped and nodded. There is indeed such a possibility. Qingqingzi continued. Moreover, Night Sorrow is the virtuous feather god. If the person who deals with him succeeds, it will be good as they will obtain his providence. If they don't succeed, they will be plagued with bad luck. It is not something that ordinary cultivators can withstand. Songping, what do you think? Huang Lai felt that Qingqingzi's words made sense. He looked at Yin Songping wanting to ask him what he meant. In fact, the Divine King's blood essence was too tempting for him. He was really unwilling to give it up. If we were outside, I would choose to make a move. However, there were too many variables in the Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave dwelling. Rather than snatching it, it was better to help them. Night Sorrow is the feather god of merit. If you help him, you might get some good luck. Yin Songping pondered for a moment and voiced his opinion. His strength was about the same as Huang Lai's, but he had always been willing to be a supporting character. However, the two of them had worked together for many years, and most of the time, he was the one who came up with the ideas. That does make sense. The virtuous feather god is indeed very strange. Most people who oppose him don't have a good ending. Ming Ju, who had been silent all this while, chimed in. That's right. If we act rashly, I'm afraid the gains will not make up for the losses. At this moment, Qing Mingzi recalled the conflict between Night Sorrow and the Jubao Pavilion. He immediately understood that Night Sorrow definitely hadn't lowered his head to Feng Xiaoyun. Since that's what you all think, let's go over and help. At the very least, I won't be his enemy in the cave. Huang Lai, who listened to everyone's opinion, nodded. While they were discussing this matter, Yin Tiany's soaring blood qi had already attracted 3 skeleton puppets. These skeletons were quickly killed by Night Sorrow. Facing these skeletons, Night Sorrow was extremely fierce. He didn't want to drag things out and affect Yin Tiany negatively. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't hold back and easily killed these skeletons, Huang Lai and the others were even more certain of their thoughts. When they were close to Qianli, Qing Mingzi transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. Master Night Sorrow, we're here to help. We want to form good karma. If you want to form good karma, stop immediately. Seeing that Huang Lai, Yin Songping, and the others were getting closer and closer, Night Sorrow immediately stopped them. All right, we'll help you clean up the skeletons attracted by Yin Tiany outside. If there are cultivators coveting it, we won't stand by and do nothing. Qing Mingzi, who received Huang Lai's instructions, continued to communicate with Night Sorrow. If you can do as you say, I'll be very grateful. The skeleton puppets seemed to be very sensitive to the blood qi and kept rushing over. If there were people helping, Night Sorrow's pressure would be reduced by a lot. After he replied, he continued to fight the skeleton puppets that surrounded him. As time passed, more and more skeleton puppets were attracted by the blood qi. Although Night Sorrow was powerful, he couldn't handle it all. Now's the time. Help. Huang Lai and the others who had waited for an opportunity fought with the skeleton puppets outside, immediately alleviating the pressure on Night Sorrow. During the battle, they stayed outside and didn't get close to Yin Tiany. After fighting fiercely with the skeleton puppets for a while, Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, and Yin Songping gradually formed a tacit understanding. They formed a triangle and surrounded Yin Tiany. Mingju and Qing Mingzi supported them. They were still a bit weak. The situation was stabilized for the time being. Occasionally, an upper god skeleton puppet would appear, and Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, and the others would work together to kill it. Yin Tiany's blood qi became denser and denser. He kept absorbing the Divine King's blood, making his aura stronger and stronger. There was no doubt that when he finished absorbing the blood qi, his strength would increase qualitatively. At the same time, the Divine King's blood qi that was being absorbed shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yin Tiany should be able to finish absorbing it soon. Thank you so much for this time. Night Sorrow, who was taking a short breather, saw the Divine King's blood qi being absorbed quickly and expressed his gratitude. This time, without Huang Lai and the others' help, he might not have been able to hold on. After that, the number of skeletons attracted by the blood qi decreased, and their strength increased. However, even if there were upper god skeletons, Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, and the others could still work together to kill them, so there wasn't much pressure on them. At this time, Yin Tiany's absorption was coming to an end. There was only a tiny bit of the Divine King's blood qi left. He estimated that in less than 2 hours he would finish absorbing it. But at this time, Yi Shang saw a half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape in the distance, shaking the heavens as it hurried over. This skeleton ape was very large, at least 1,000 feet tall. With every step it took, the ground would tremble, intimidating the other skeleton puppets so much that they didn't dare to move. It was clear that it was the absolute king of this area. A half-step Divine Lord Skeleton Ape. What do we do? It's not something we can kill. Seeing the half-step Divine Lord Skeleton Ape approach step by step, Huang Lai and the others sucked in a cold breath. They didn't have any experience facing a half-step Divine Lord, and they were already panicking before the battle even began. Everyone, I will tie down this skeleton ape. Help me look after Yin Tiany. If the situation turns bad, you can take the initiative to run away. No matter what, I, Night Sorrow, will remember today's matter. The situation was critical. The good news was that after the half-step Divine Lord Skeleton Ape appeared, the other skeleton puppets didn't dare to move. Moreover, with Yin Tiany absorbed here, it was meaningless for Huang Lai and the others to try and snatch it away. However, it was unrealistic for Huang Lai and the others to face the half-step Divine Lord Skeleton Ape. It was already good enough that they were willing to help. It was impossible for them to risk their lives. Chapter 2502. The half-step god lords that Night Sorrow had faced in the past were all lacking in strength. Whether it was the dark creatures in the darkness domain, or the soul-devouring beast in the cave abode. They all had significant flaws. Although the bone ape in front of him was a skeleton puppet, it was a true half-step god lord. Whether it was the power of its soul or divine origin energy, it had been cultivated to perfection and was very strong. Facing such an opponent, Night Sorrow immediately activated Essence Chi Smoke, Star's hegemonic body, and used Virtue Power and 7-star Berserk Alcade. He adjusted himself to his best state and charged forward. He had the Sea Serpent Eye and could see through some of the surrounding arrays. He was prepared to use the arrays to do something. Raging Flame subdues demons. Night Sorrow, who had soared into the air, was still far away from the bone ape when he used Raging Flame subdues demons to block its path and prevent it from charging at Yin Tianyi. Awo. The indomitable bone ape was immediately enraged when it was blocked by the vigorous flames. It roared at the sky and chased after Night Sorrow. What strength! Night Sorrow, who had lured the bone ape away, was chased by it. He immediately felt as if his soul was being locked on. The bone ape's soul was clearly at the half-step god lord level. It was not something that he could fight against. He definitely could not escape if he tried to escape like this. Night Sorrow dove into an array set up by God Lord Jin Yuan to block the bone ape's attack, just like when he faced the half-step God Lord Divine Talisman. Boom! The bone ape, who had caught up, swung the giant spiked club in its hand and slammed it into the array. The spiked club was surrounded by a blue light. This was the bone ape's divine origin energy. When it hit the array's barrier, it immediately pierced through it. After piercing through the array's barrier, the spiked club went straight for Night Sorrow. What a powerful aura! Night Sorrow wanted to take this attack head-on, but he gave up on this idea for the sake of the overall situation. He used the Void Vanishing Shadow to quickly dodge this attack. Human Cultivator. Die. Not only did the bone ape fail to hit Night Sorrow, but it also suffered a backlash from the formation. It immediately flew into a rage and shouted the word die. Although it was a puppet, it had a certain level of intelligence and was different from the other puppets in the cave. At the same time, it spat out a mouthful of icy blue flames, which covered the entire formation. Night Sorrow, who was in the middle of the formation, had no way of escaping the blue flames that spread for thousands of miles. He was directly burned. However, the Azure Phoenix battle armor was refined by Jing Yin. It was innately impervious to flames. In fact, it could even absorb the flames to heal the injuries caused by the Mirage Sphere. Roar! The bone ape's blue flames had been nurtured by absorbing the essence of the cave abode over several reincarnations. Not only did it not injure Night Sorrow, but it was also continuously absorbed by the blue phoenix battle armor. This made it even more furious. He leaped into the air and used his ultimate skill, Golden Ape Suppression. This move was an ultimate skill that the bone ape had mastered when it was alive. After it was refined into a puppet, it inherited it. After using it, its body emitted a blinding golden light. As this golden light spread out, it enveloped Night Sorrow along with its divine domain. Night Sorrow, who was suppressed by the bone ape's divine domain, could not circulate his divine yuan force smoothly. This feeling was very uncomfortable, as if he had fallen into a quagmire. Is this the strength of a true half-step divine lord? It is indeed difficult to deal with. The difference in strength between the two was huge. Their divine domains were not on the same level. After circulating his power of virtue, Night Sorrow felt slightly better. He guessed that this bone ape should be the limit of what he could face. If it was any stronger, his power of virtue would not be effective. Oh! After using its divine domain to envelop Night Sorrow, the bone ape suddenly jumped down from the sky and directly stomped on Night Sorrow's position. This move was obviously more powerful than the mace from before. Night Sorrow, who had just regained his freedom of movement, knew that he could not take it head-on. He used Vanishing Shadow Void Escape and hid in an illusory array set up by Divine Lord Jin Yuan. Boom! Just as Night Sorrow hid in the illusory array, the bone ape, whose ferocious nature was completely unleashed, stomped down. The first stomp from the sky shattered the defense of the illusory array. The second stomp was aimed at Night Sorrow. Come on! Samsara Strike! The bone ape's attack was extremely ferocious. Although it looked like a golden body attack, it actually contained the suppression of a divine domain. Night Sorrow, who could not dodge in time, could only choose to take it head-on. He used the Samsara halberd to strike the Samsara strike into the sky. After being hit by the Samsara strike, the bone ape's aura was slightly weakened. However, it did not stop and stomped down, causing the entire illusory array to sink more than 500 miles. With this stomp, Night Sorrow is likely to die. Our good karma can't be formed. Huang Lai, who was watching from afar, was unhappy when he saw Night Sorrow get stomped by the bone ape. He felt that it was a waste of energy. Furthermore, the current Yun Tianyi basically already finished absorbing the Divine King blood essence. There was no meaning in him snatching it either. Hence, he opened his mouth and said, "This half-step Divine Lord Realm bone ape's strength is too strong. It's not what we can contend with. Everyone, hurry up and escape together with me." Okay, let's go straight to the Blue Stone Palace. This bone ape's next target is definitely Yun Tianyi. We should have a high chance of escaping. Let's go. Yin Songping immediately agreed. The bone ape was too ferocious. He did not want to stay for even a moment. Qing Mingzi and Mingju were also very afraid. They followed behind Huang Lai and Yin Songping and fled in the direction of the Blue Stone Palace. Just as Yin Songping had predicted, after the bone ape attacked Night Sorrow, it immediately turned back and rushed towards the place where Yun Tianyi was absorbing the Divine King's blood essence. The Divine King's blood essence was very attractive to the bone ape. If it could successfully snatch it away, it was very likely that it would rise to the Divine Lord realm. Roar! Yun Tianyi's blood energy surged. He was still absorbing the blood essence of his ancestor, the Divine King, but there was no one around him to protect him. The bone ape approached and grabbed at Yun Tianyi, wanting to swallow him along with the blood essence. Bastard! How dare you covet the blood essence of the Divine King? Scram! Just as the bone ape was about to grab Yun Tianyi, a phantom rushed out of his body and sent the bone ape flying with a palm strike. The bone ape, whose arm had been shattered by this palm strike, immediately fled in fright. Although the strength of the phantom that attacked it was at the Divine Lord realm, its aura was indeed at the Divine King realm. The bone ape did not dare to face it. At this moment, Yun Tianyi slowly opened his eyes. Seeing the phantom in front of him, he immediately asked in shock, "You are the ancestor, the Divine King of the Cloud Wilderness?" "Yes. However, we can talk about this later. The attack just now drained me too much. I need to recover." The imposing phantom nodded and pointed at the place where Night Sorrow was stepped on by the bone ape. "The people of the Yun clan need to repay kindness. Just now, your friend took a hit from the half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape in order to save you. We don't know if he's dead or alive. Quickly go and find him." With that, he flew back into Yin Tianyi's body. Clearly, he was different from Yin Changhe. He was not at the end of his life yet. "Brother Yi, nothing must happen to you." Chapter 2503. However, when Yin Tianyi entered the broken illusory array, she only saw a huge footprint and did not find Night Sorrow. She did not find him at all. When Yin Tianyi realized that he had recklessly absorbed the blood essence of a god king, and even attracted the attention of a half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape, he was extremely vexed. In the pit that the bone ape had created, he continuously swung his sword to vent his anger. In the end, she could not find any clues. She walked towards the Greenstone Palace to see if Night Sorrow had gone there. It hurts. At this time, Night Sorrow was in a dark sealed space. He slowly opened his eyes. The moment he woke up, Night Sorrow felt a tearing pain all over his body. It was as if every bone in his body had been broken. The half-step Divine Lord Skeletal Ape's stomp had almost crushed him. "Where is this? Why am I here?" Night Sorrow's body was in pain. His body was severely injured, but his spirit sea was not injured. He used his spirit power to explore his surroundings. After exploring, Night Sorrow discovered that he was in a square sealed space. It was empty except for him and the Samsara halberd. He reached for the medicine bottle on his belt. He wanted to take some pills to heal his injuries, but he found that the medicine bottle had all been crushed. Even the spirit recovery pill could not be found. "Without pills, I can only recover slowly. I wonder how Yin Tianyi is now." Night Sorrow, who struggled to get up, sat down on the ground and began to heal his body. After being stepped on by the skeletal ape, he fainted. When he woke up, he was in this place. He did not know the cause and effect. He prepared to completely heal his body and used the samsara halberd to attack the walls of the sealed space. This was the only way he could think of to escape. After spending 2 years, Night Sorrow's body had completely healed. This time, his body was completely broken and rebuilt. After recovering, it was much stronger. Samsara strike. Forbidden spear. Raging flames, demons subduing. After his body had completely healed, Night Sorrow continuously attacked the walls of the sealed space. He used the samsara halberd to bombard it from top to bottom, left to right, but to no avail. Am I going to be trapped here forever? No, absolutely not. There were still many things waiting for him to do. How could Night Sorrow be willing to be trapped here? He activated the Vital Essence Smoke Signal, the star's tyrant body, and the power of merit to bombard the barrier again. However, the result was that he still couldn't shake the barrier of the sealed space. What's going on? Could this be a cage in the cave? Is it specially used to imprison cultivators? As a feather god who could go anywhere, Night Sorrow felt very depressed being locked up in such a confined space. Since he did not gain anything from using brute force, he used his left eye to absorb the divine essence energy. He activated the sea serpent's eye and carefully observed this sealed space. There are formation patterns. After activating the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow immediately saw a complete array formation diagram on the barrier of the sealed space. Compared to what he had seen from the gravel in the passageway and the stones in the hall, the formation patterns were much clearer. Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array? It can use the Divine Essence energy to form an array with a thought, and lock the opponent in the array. It is divided into the Feather God level, the High God level, and the Divine Lord level. Seeing the description of the array formation, Night Sorrow immediately became excited. When he was fighting now, his methods were relatively simple. If he could master this array formation, it would definitely become a trump card. This array formation was obviously more useful than ordinary ultimate arts. When used, it could imprison the opponent or even directly seal them. Learn. I have to learn this. This array formation was very useful, and Night Sorrow felt that if he learned it, he might have a chance to break out of the sealed space. He immediately used the sea serpent's eye to carefully observe the composition of the array formation. Night Sorrow's comprehension was originally very high, and he had drunk a lot of enlightenment wine in the Endless Bone region. When learning the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, his progress was rather fast. In less than a year, he could use the Divine Essence energy to set up the Feather God level Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. Open. After learning the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, Night Sorrow immediately saw the door to the sealed space, and used the Divine Essence energy to directly disperse it. The sealed space shattered, and he appeared in a core world full of lava. Very good. Among the cultivators who entered the cave abode, your comprehension is indeed the highest. The Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array has a successor, so I can go in peace. What appeared in front of Night Sorrow was a phantom of Divine Lord Jinyuan. He said a sentence and dissipated between heaven and earth. Divine Lord. When Night Sorrow saw Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom, he immediately called out, but it was already too late. At the same time the phantom disappeared, a sentence sounded in his ear. If you want to enter the Greenstone Palace, you have to kill the half-step Divine Lord Realmbone Ape, and obtain the key to open the palace. If you want to obtain the opportunity, hurry and think of a way. Without waiting for Night Sorrow to react, he had already returned to the deep pit created by the Bone Ape. In a flash, more than 3 years have passed. I wonder if Yun Tianyi is still alive. After being trampled, he had directly appeared in the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. Now that he had returned, Night Sorrow did not know about Yun Tianyi's situation. Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom had said that to enter the Greenstone Palace, one had to first kill the half-step Divine Lord Realmbone Ape. This meant that in order to obtain the letter, Night Sorrow had to destroy that colossus. With his strength, it was impossible for him to do so. He could only think of a way to find helpers. Moreover, it was basically impossible for others to kill the Bone Ape. They could not enter the Greenstone Palace, so they should be searching for opportunities nearby. After walking out of the illusion array, Night Sorrow came to the place where Yin Tianyi had absorbed the Divine King's blood essence. He used the sea serpent's eye to observe for a while, and returned to the illusion array to take a closer look. He discovered many sword marks and confirmed that Yin Tianyi was not dead at that time. Therefore he began searching the plains. However, after searching for more than half a month, Night Sorrow did not encounter Yin Tianyi, Huang Lai, or the others. Fortunately, he headed in the direction of the Greenstone Palace. There are sounds of fighting. I finally see people. After traveling for 5 days in the direction of the Bluestone Palace, Night Sorrow killed quite a few skeletal puppets. Finally, at noon, they heard the sounds of cultivators fighting in an ancient forest that stretched up to the sky. Night Sorrow flew out of the ancient forest and immediately rushed in the direction of the sounds of fighting. Soon, he saw the two sides fighting beside a lake that occupied an area of about 100 miles. In the center of the lake, there were two women fighting. One of them was wearing a red palace dress and holding a blood-red silk. At this moment, she had the upper hand and was constantly attacking. The one she was suppressing was a beautiful woman who was completely naked. The woman was tall and curvy, and her body was covered with sparkling and translucent water droplets. It was obvious that she had suffered a sneak attack while bathing in the lake, causing her to be unarmed and naked. Being suppressed, her face was flushed red. Clearly, she was embarrassed and angry. She wanted to return to the shore to retrieve her clothes and divine artifact, but she was suppressed to the point that she had no chance at all. See no evil. See no evil. Seeing this scene, Night Sorrow immediately retreated in embarrassment and prepared to change his path. Chapter 2504. Chen Qiuyue, you're courting death. Today, Yaoshi will kill you. Hearing Chen Qiuyue's evil teasing, Yaoshi, who was ranked 9th on the Feather God list with Chen Qiuyue, and was known as one of the two beauties of the Feather God realm in the Dark Moon's Dominator region, became completely cold. A male cultivator appeared. Yaoshi condensed her divine essence and turned it into a light blue protective mist. Her whole body seemed to be covered in a layer of mist. This had some impact on her strength, but she had no other choice. At the same time, she struck several hand blades made of divine essence in Chen Qiuyue's direction. Haha, we've been fighting for more than a year or two. When have we not been evenly matched? Otherwise, we wouldn't be ranked 9th on the Feather God list. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. Facing Yaoshi's hand blades, Chen Qiuyue easily used the red armillary sash in her hand to shatter them. She pretended to look in Night Sorrow's direction and teased. Look at that male cultivator, his eyes are fixed on you. It seems that our fairy Yaoshi is quite something. What the hell is he looking at? Hearing this, Night Sorrow, who had already turned around and ran away, muttered speechlessly. He didn't have the hobby of peeking, so he chose to leave immediately. You deserve to die. Being teased like this, Yaoshi attacked again in shame and anger, but she was completely naked. She didn't have a defensive robe or a divine artifact, and her mind was in a mess. How could she have the upper hand? She was quickly suppressed again. She wanted to go back to the shore and put on her clothes, but she didn't have the chance. After all, in her normal state, she was only on par with Chen Qiuyue every time. It was normal for her to be at a disadvantage now. At this time, she felt helpless in her shame and anger. Hee, I'm not sure if I'll die or not, but you'll definitely be more famous in the Dark Moon Dominator's area. Chen Qiuyue took the initiative and teased Yaoshi. Then, she waved her hand and shot a flame toward Yaoshi's clothes. My robe is a taboo divine tier magic robe. Do you think you can destroy it with your nondescript flames? Yaoshi, who was extremely confident in the robe, ignored Chen Qiuyue's flames and attacked her again. She wanted to use this opportunity to suppress her and find an opportunity to get closer to the robe and the divine artifact. Haha, who said I wanted to burn your clothes? If Fairy Yaoshi's undergarment were to be auctioned, TSK, it would definitely fetch a sky-high price. When Chen Qiuyue saw that Yaoshi had not been able to disperse the flame she had conjured, a triumphant smile appeared on her face. The flame she shot out suddenly turned into a goshawk. It picked up Yaoshi's white silk belly band and quickly flew into the sky. You're shameless. Seeing her belly band being taken away, Yaoshi was so angry that her face turned ashen. At this time, she was blocked by Chen Qiuyue and couldn't catch up. She could only watch as the goshawk flew away. After thinking for a while, Yaoshi, who had no other choice, sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. "Friend, please take my clothes back from the goshawk. I, Yaoshi, am a grateful person. I will remember your favor this time." Night Sorrow, who didn't expect Yaoshi to send a voice transmission to him, was already some distance away. Hearing Yaoshi's voice transmission, he suddenly had an idea. This Yaoshi is an expert ranked 9th on the God of Feathers list. If she helps, it will be much easier for me to kill the bone ape. Guyu, a half-step divine lord, wasn't someone he could deal with alone. With an additional helper, he had a higher chance of killing the bone ape. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow replied, "Okay, I can help you get your clothes back. But the condition is that you help me once. What do you think?" Yen Jiannan, ranked 27th on the God of Feathers list, was quite strong. He guessed that the 9th-ranked Yaoshi's strength must be terrifying. She might even be stronger than him. "I can promise you that. But I won't help the evildoer do something shameless for you." Yaoshi, who was confronting Chen Qiuyue, immediately agreed without hesitation. She knew that if she didn't agree, the belly band would disappear. "It's a deal." After receiving Yaoshi's affirmation, Night Sorrow immediately used the Void Vanishing Shadow Escape and chased after the Fire Hawk. This Fire Hawk was casually created by Chen Qiuyue. It wasn't very fast and it didn't have much fighting strength. Soon he caught up to the Fire Hawk and took back Yaoshi's white belly band. "Oh, weren't you being quite honest just now?" After Night Sorrow took the belly band, Chen Qiuyue teased her. Yaoshi, who knew that Night Sorrow was helping her, was so angry that her face turned purple. "I've taken your things. How can I return them to you?" Night Sorrow, who had snatched the belly band, immediately sent a sound transmission to Yaoshi. Yaoshi, who received the sound transmission, helplessly replied, "Wait a moment. I'll see if I can find a way to shake Chen Qiuyue off." After saying this, Yaoshi used a secret technique to shake off Chen Qiuyue, but she still didn't succeed. "If I help you control her, and let you successfully put on your clothes and take back the divine artifact, can you help me get something from this trip to the cave residence?" Seeing that Yaoshi couldn't shake off Chen Qiuyue, Night Sorrow, who was about 1,000 miles away, sent another sound transmission. He felt that if he could get Yaoshi's help, his chances of getting the letter from the Divine Lord of Jinyuan would be much higher. You want to stop Chen Qiuyue with the strength of a mid-level divine feather? You have to know that she's an expert ranked in the top 10 of the divine feather list. She can destroy your divine soul with a casual strike. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yaoshi was clearly tempted. However, she didn't believe that Night Sorrow had the ability to stop Chen Qiuyue. After all, she and Chen Qiuyue were the rulers of the divine realm of the Dark Moon. They were the strongest fighters in the divine feather realm. You don't have to think about this. You just have to choose whether you agree or not. Night Sorrow wasn't confident that he could defeat an expert ranked in the top 10 of the divine feather list. However, he felt that it wouldn't be too difficult to stop her. "What do you want?" "If it's the Divine Lord of Jinyuan's soul-strengthening method, I won't agree. It's my chance to shake off Chen Qiuyue." Yaoshi, who was fighting, immediately responded. Her ultimate goal in this trip to the cave residence was to obtain the soul-strengthening method of the Divine Lord of Jinyuan. Naturally, she wouldn't give in. "What I want is the letter in the deepest part of the Divine Lord of Jinyuan's cave residence," Night Sorrow explained. He then asked, "It's up to you whether you want me to help. I won't take advantage of you. Besides, if I help you, I'll be risking offending Chen Qiuyue. You have to understand this. In exchange for your help, it's not too much to ask." "All right, I'll believe you this once." Yaoshi didn't know where Night Sorrow's confidence came from, but she had no other choice. She agreed without hesitation. "Don't worry. I'll get you out of this predicament very soon." After replying to Yaoshi, Night Sorrow walked out of the forest and returned to the lakeside. Standing on the ground, he looked at Chen Qiuyue, who was still fighting, and said, "Fairy Qiuyue, Fairy Yaoshi has already lost all face today. Why don't you let her off? Let her put her clothes back on. and the two of you can have a fair fight. What do you think? Mid-level Divine Feather Realm Ant. Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? I'll give you 3 breaths of time to get out of your Majesty's sight. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Chapter 2505. Her tone was full of disdain and contempt. Obviously, she thought that Knight Sorrow was like a dog to her. He had no right to speak. You want my life? Chen Qiuyue's arrogance made Knight Sorrow laugh. You can try. I want to see just how strong you are. As someone ranked in the top 10 of the Feather Gods list, he was going to persuade Chen Qiuyue to stop. If that failed, he would at most stop her. He didn't expect that she would look down on him like this. This immediately aroused his fighting spirit. The top 10 on the Feather God list were definitely not easy to deal with, but Knight Sorrow wasn't afraid. You don't know what's good for you. Chen Qiuyue, who was fighting Yao Shi, threw a silver needle at Knight Sorrow's face. Although this was a casual attack from Chen Qiuyue, it was more than enough to kill an upper-level Feather God. She thought that it would be easy to kill Knight Sorrow. You want to kill me with this attack? Chen Qiuyue's silver needle could deal with an upper-level Feather God, but it was no threat to Knight Sorrow. He caught it with 2 fingers and threw it at Chen Qiuyue. This attack was obviously several times stronger than Chen Qiuyue's. It had the strength of an invincible Feather God. Oh, you're strong. I underestimated you. Chen Qiuyue, who was fighting Yao Shi, used her body movement to dodge this attack. She obviously didn't expect Knight Sorrow to have the strength of an invincible Feather God. Her expression changed and she threatened. Get out of here if you know what's good for you. Your Majesty can ignore what just happened. Otherwise you're nothing in front of me. Don't put on airs with me. It would have been fine if Chen Qiuyue didn't threaten him. As soon as she spoke, Knight Sorrow used Vital Essence Smoke and Star's hegemonic body. He also took out the Samsara halberd and slashed. In an instant, he cut through the void and went straight for Chen Qiuyue. You're courting death. Seeing Knight Sorrow attack, Chen Qiuyue felt that she was being provoked. She immediately became furious and attacked him with the red armillary sash in her hand. The red armillary sash was of the same level as the Samsara halberd. They collided and ended in a tie. When Yao Shi saw that Chen Qiuyue and Yi Shang were engaged in battle, she immediately seized the opportunity to rush to the lakeside. In a naked battle, she was completely unable to let loose, and her battle prowess could not even reach 60%. At this moment, she realized something. Although she couldn't summon her clothes just now, she could summon her divine equipment in battle. Frosty Brow. I was so angry that I made such a stupid mistake. Yao Shi had always been known as a fairy in the realm of the gods. Today she was in such a predicament. She was obviously unstable in the battle, and made such a mistake. It's impossible for you to kill me with such a powerful attack. Come, let me see what kind of strength you have. Someone ranked in the top 10 of the Feather Gods list. At the same time, Knight Sorrow and Chen Qiuyue were still fighting. Chen Qiuyue's attack was about the same level as Jian Nanshan's. Obviously, she was still holding back. Knight Sorrow didn't even use the power of merit to block the attack. So you're in the top 30 of the God of Feathers list. After Knight Sorrow blocked the attack, Chen Qiuyue's expression immediately became serious. She originally thought that she could kill Knight Sorrow in one move. Even if Yao Shi put on her clothes, she could still escape unscathed. However, if Knight Sorrow didn't die and cooperated with Yao Shi, he would be a huge threat to her. Looks like I have to use some method to kill him. Yao Shi returned to the lakeside to put on her clothes. It would probably only take a few seconds. Chen Qiuyue felt that she had to kill Knight Sorrow before she returned to the battle. Therefore, she used a secret technique without hesitation, and adjusted her divine realm to its strongest state. She threw out the red armillary sash, and used an ultimate technique. Samsara Strike. In the face of Chen Qiuyue's attack, Knight Sorrow used the power of merit and adjusted himself to his best state. He used the Samsara halberd to attack with the Samsara Strike. The golden spear light from the Samsara halberd collided with the red light from the red armillary sash. After the Samsara Strike, the aura of the red armillary sash weakened. However, Chen Qiuyue was ranked in the top 10 of the God of Feathers list. Although the aura of the red armillary sash weakened, it successfully entangled the samsara halberd and fixed it in the air. Then, it split into 8 parts and attacked Night Sorrow. The fixed samsara halberd immediately released flames. However, it didn't burn the red armillary sash. It didn't even burn it. Obviously, the level of the red armillary sash was higher than the flames of the samsara halberd. Night Sorrow, who couldn't retrieve the samsara halberd, could only face Chen Qiuyue's red armillary sash with his bare hands. Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. It was obviously impossible to take Chen Qiuyue's red armillary sash head-on. At this moment, Night Sorrow used the Sea Serpent Eye to see the trajectory of the red armillary sash and Chen Qiuyue's location. He used his Divine Essence to form an array with a thought. He directly trapped Chen Qiuyue in the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. After losing Chen Qiuyue's control, the red armillary sash's power immediately weakened. Night Sorrow easily took it. What kind of move is this? After being trapped in the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array by Night Sorrow, Chen Qiuyue immediately activated her Divine Essence, wanting to shatter the sealed space. However, the sealed space formed by the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array was undamaged. How can this be? After failing to shatter the sealed space with her Divine Essence, Chen Qiuyue immediately condensed her Divine Essence into her palm and continuously attacked the barrier of the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. After being attacked continuously, the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array was quickly shaken. Speaking of which, Night Sorrow's cultivation level was still too low. He was only a middle-level feather god. His Divine Essence was too different from Chen Qiuyue's. The strength of the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array was limited. After being attacked crazily, it couldn't hold on for long. However, this time was enough. At this moment, Yaoshi had already finished dressing and flew to Night Sorrow's side. Sensing the fluctuations in the void, she knew that Night Sorrow had used some method to trap Chen Qiuyue inside. She looked at Night Sorrow with a hint of vigilance. Without a doubt, if Night Sorrow was a threat to Chen Qiuyue, he was a threat to her. At this moment, Yaoshi completely stopped looking down on Night Sorrow. She said, "Thank you for your help today. I will keep my promise and help you snatch the letter. My name is Yaoshi. I am from Tianxian School." Although she knew that the other party knew her name, Yaoshi still introduced herself. This way, they could be considered acquaintances. Yaoshi, who was neatly dressed and wearing a white feather robe, instantly regained her usual otherworldly temperament. She had a coldness that kept people thousands of miles away. "My name is Night Sorrow. I am an itinerant cultivator. I have not joined any sect or faction." Yaoshi was a little cold, but she didn't give people the feeling that she was cold and arrogant. Night Sorrow nodded in response. An itinerant cultivator with no background actually has such strength? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yaoshi was clearly a little surprised. She wanted to say something. Chapter 2506. She shattered the Divine Origin Dragon Locking Formation that Night Sorrow had constructed with his Divine Origin energy. Chen Qiuyue, her face full of murderous intent, immediately recalled her red armillary sash across the air. Standing 150 kilometers away from Night Sorrow and Yaoshi, she coldly threatened Night Sorrow. "You'd better not be alone in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's abode. If I find a chance, I'll definitely kill you." With Night Sorrow and Yaoshi standing together, Chen Qiuyue naturally wouldn't choose to fight one against two. Thoughts of retreat sprouted in her heart. In the process of fighting Night Sorrow just now, she still had many tricks up her sleeve. If they met again, she was confident that she would make him suffer. "I'll be waiting for you." Night Sorrow didn't take Chen Qiuyue's threat seriously at all. She might be a bit stronger than him, but the possibility of her killing him in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's abode was next to nothing. "I didn't expect you, Fairy Yaoshi, who claims to be as pure as ice and as pure as jade, to have a lover now. We'll have plenty of time in the future." Before leaving, Chen Qiuyue didn't forget to tease Yaoshi. In the face of Chen Qiuyue's teasing, Yaoshi retorted sarcastically, "No matter what, it's better than being a nuisance like you. Let's wait and see." There was a story behind Yaoshi's words. Night Sorrow didn't understand, but Chen Qiuyue understood. Her face instantly turned ugly, and she left the forest after saying that. Next, where does Fairy Yaoshi want to go? Night Sorrow immediately asked after Chen Qiuyue left. Now that you've offended Chen Qiuyue, with her personality, she'll definitely keep following you and looking for an opportunity to attack. I'd better stay by your side. That way, I'll be able to look after you. Yaoshi said coldly. If she is such a person, then what I want to do next will be difficult. Night Sorrow carried the heavenly Samsara halberd on his back, and tidied up his robe that was messy due to the battle. He continued. According to reliable sources, in order to open the Blue Stone Palace, one must kill a half-step Divine Lord Realm Bone Ape and obtain the relevant key. I want you to help me find some helpers to kill the Bone Ape. If he offended Chen Qiuyue and was targeted by her, it was very likely that he would be ambushed by her if he fought with the Bone Ape. This was very dangerous. Now, even though Night Sorrow had obtained the help of someone in the top 10 of the Feather Gods list, he had also offended someone who was as strong as her. Things had become difficult for him, and he needed to find more helpers. So this is the only way to enter the Bluestone Palace. No wonder no one could find the entrance to the palace. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yaoshi suddenly understood. Out of respect, she did not ask about Night Sorrow's sources. Did you see Yin Tianyi in the cave? Night Sorrow asked. He knew that the people on the Feather Gods list were all relatively famous. Even though Yin Tianyi was ranked 100, Yaoshi had definitely heard of him. Yin Tianyi? I saw him fighting Yan Jiannan outside the Bluestone Palace. His strength seemed to have increased quite a bit, but he was no match for Yan Jiannan. He was severely injured in the battle. Yaoshi recounted what she had seen. For a period of time, many cultivators had gathered in front of the Bluestone Palace. At that time many battles had occurred. In the end he escaped? Night Sorrow was worried that Yin Tianyi had been severely injured. After all, the two of them had entered the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave together. They were partners who supported each other. At that time, he didn't escape. When he was severely injured and was about to be killed by Yan Jiannan, a shadow with a powerful aura suddenly emerged from his body and injured Yan Jiannan. In that battle, the two of them were evenly matched. After the battle, they left the Bluestone Palace's main entrance one after the other. Yaoshi said faintly. It seems that the blood essence of the Divine King he absorbed is not simple. In that case, the sacrifice back then was worth it. Night Sorrow was very pleased that Yin Tianyi's strength had increased. As they walked out of the forest, he asked curiously, not many people know that the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave has opened. How did you and Chen Qiuyue get the news? A smile appeared on Yaoshi's face when she heard that. She asked, do you know why we've been staying at the Divine Feather Realm? Why? Night Sorrow naturally knew more about this matter, but he could see that Yaoshi was implying something, so he let her continue. Naturally, it's to cultivate the Feather God realm to perfection, and lay a good foundation for the Divine King's path. Otherwise, with the talent of Chen Qiuyue and I, we would probably be Divine Lords by now. Yaoshi explained, then continued. After cultivating to our level, it's no longer possible to rely on cultivation to increase our strength. We can only look for opportunities everywhere. The appearance of the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave naturally wouldn't be hidden from us. After all, many things in the Divine Realm can be calculated. So that's how it is. It seems that every expert on the Feather God list has the determination to break through to the Divine King or Sovereign level. I really envy experts like you who can break through to the High God realm at any time. What Yishan lacked the most right now was cultivation. He couldn't help but sigh. What others needed was to accumulate a foundation, but what he needed was the cultivation that others didn't care about the least. I really envy you. You're already so strong as a mid-level feather god. Yaoshi, who felt that Night Sorrow had great potential, was very envious of him. The two chatted as they walked in the direction of the Bluestone Palace. Night Sorrow decided to find Yin Tianyi first, then discuss how to deal with the Bone Ape. Because Night Sorrow had the Sea Serpent's eye, they didn't accidentally enter any formations along the way. Soon they arrived in front of the Bluestone Palace. The palace door couldn't be opened, and there was no one guarding it. When they got close, Yaoshi pointed at a blood-stained area in front of the door and said, "That's where Yin Tianyi and Yin Jiannan fought. Let's go take a look and see if we can find any clues." "Yes, that's the only way." Night Sorrow nodded, then went to the area where the two fought and observed. After watching for a while, he sighed and said, "You've improved a lot. I wonder where you went." "Brother Yi, it's great to see that you're fine." Unexpectedly, just as Night Sorrow spoke, Yin Tianyi's figure appeared in the sky in the distance. He stood in the sky and saw Night Sorrow at the entrance of the palace. He immediately flew down. "Is this sister-in-law?" Yin Tianyi glanced at Yaoshi and saw a beautiful woman standing beside Night Sorrow. He immediately asked this question. After blurting out this sentence, he finally realized who it was. Wasn't this beautiful woman in front of him Yaoshi, who was ranked 9th on the Feather God list, along with Chen Qiuyue? This is Yaoshi, and this is Yin Tianyi. Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi knew each other, but they didn't really know each other. Night Sorrow introduced them. He then explained, "Yaoshi and I are friends who have just met." "Oh, so that's how it is." Yin Tianyi had naturally heard of Fairy Yaoshi's name, so he didn't say anything rash. Then he said, "Brother Yi, now that we can't enter the Blue Stone Palace, what should we do?" "There is a way to enter the Blue Stone Palace, and that is to kill the half-step Divine Lord Skeletal Ape and obtain the key to open the door." Night Sorrow explained the matter of the Skeletal Ape and asked for their opinions. "I think that the three of us already have the strength to challenge the Skeletal Ape. Why don't we try it now? What do you think?" "Okay. We can take revenge on it." Hearing that there was a way to open the Blue Stone Palace, Yin Tianyi immediately became excited. His strength had increased greatly, and so had his confidence. "With our strength, we might be able to fight the Skeletal Ape, but if Chen Qiuyue ambushes us, it will be very difficult." Yaoshi, on the other hand, voiced her concerns. She knew Chen Qiuyue's personality very well. She was the kind of person who would never give up. "That's a problem. Why don't we?" After pondering for a moment, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi. "Okay, that works." Chapter 2507. Night Sorrow's plan was very simple. Didn't Chen Qiuyue like to stick around and stalk people? Then they would set up a trap to lure her in. They would challenge the half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape, and then pretend to be injured. They would then shake off the Bone Ape and escape into the array formation on the plain. Doing this would be very difficult for others. But Night Sorrow had the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array, and could temporarily restrain the Bone Ape. Moreover, he could use the Clam Dragon Eye to choose a suitable array formation. As long as the array formation was good enough to conceal its aura, they could successfully shake it off. However, he had an ulterior motive. Getting rid of the Bone Ape was not his real goal. If Chen Qiuyue was secretly observing them, she would definitely choose to do something bad, and lead the Bone Ape to the array formation they were in. If that happened, Chen Qiuyue would be exposed. She would no longer be in the dark while Night Sorrow and the others would be in the light. "If the two of you don't have any objections, then let's do it like this." After explaining his plan, Night Sorrow sent a voice transmission to the two of them. "The play must be realistic, but make sure you don't get heavily injured. It's fine as long as it looks miserable. Once Chen Qiuyue comes out, don't hesitate and immediately attack." If they wanted to kill the half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape and obtain the key to the Stone Palace, they had to deal with Chen Qiuyue. Since they had decided on a plan, Night Sorrow was prepared to cut the Gordian knot and immediately take action. "Okay. I feel that although this plan is simple, Chen Qiuyue will definitely fall for it." Yaoshi thought for a moment, then coldly said, "What if there are others?" In addition, the Bone Ape itself is a problem that needs to be considered. She naturally carried a trace of coldness and ethereal aura, but she was still rather easygoing. Just adapt to the situation. "In this cave, I should be able to trap anyone." Night Sorrow replied confidently. His Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array could indeed trap any feather god. It was just that the time it could trap them was different. In addition, he could see through all the array formations on the plane. This was a great advantage. As for the Bone Ape, it was a double-edged sword that was not easy to control. Since it was difficult to control, there was no need to think too much about it. The battle was over. After all, they had the same chance as Chun Qiuyue when facing the bone ape. Well, since that's the case, let's take action immediately. Yao Shi felt that Night Sorrow was bold and meticulous. There was no problem with this plan, so she suggested that they take action. At this time, knowing some of Night Sorrow's means and his great potential, Yao Shi had already regarded him as an existence similar to her own. In the area dominated by the dark moon, this was the second feather god who was recognized by her. As for Yun Tianyi, although her strength had increased after she rashly absorbed the Divine King's blood essence, she was more focused on Night Sorrow. Naturally, there was no problem for him. Let's go and find the bone ape. Now everything was ready except for the bone ape. Night Sorrow said and took the lead. His sea serpents I could see through many arrays, but he pretended to fall into them a few times and spent about a month. This was to exhaust Chun Qiuyue's patience and to dispel some of her doubts. About 3 months later, the three of them found the bone ape in a huge collapsed rift valley. At this time, the bone ape was wandering aimlessly in the rift valley. From time to time, it would hit the ground with its fists violently, causing the surroundings to tremble. The rift valley occupied by the bone ape covered a large area. It was about 20,000 miles wide and hundreds of thousands of miles long. Most of the area was desolate and cracked brown land. There were some hills and forests in a few areas. Apart from the bone ape, there were no other skeletal puppet creatures. Obviously, they were either killed or scared away by it. There doesn't seem to be any arrays in this valley. I'll lure it up. Let's test its strength first. After observing the valley for a while, Night Sorrow looked at Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi beside him and flew towards the bone ape. When they were about 5,000 miles away, Night Sorrow waved the Samsara halberd in midair and used the Inferno demon slaying technique. In an instant, a large flame covered the entire area within 5,000 miles of where the bone ape was. Whoa! The bone ape, which was suddenly burned by the flame, immediately hammered its chest angrily. Then, it chased after Night Sorrow, half running and half jumping. Human cultivator. Die. Although the bone ape wasn't flying, it was very fast. It didn't take long for it to catch up with Night Sorrow. When they were about 2,000 miles away, it suddenly let out a wild roar. This was a sound wave attack. The word die was like a heavy hammer that bombarded Night Sorrow's head. He suddenly felt dizzy, as if his head was about to explode. Although his soul was strong, Night Sorrow still needed a while to recover from the absent-mindedness. In this way, the bone ape's next close-range attack had already arrived. It jumped up, raised its fists in the air, and smashed down heavily. Samsara Spear. In the face of this attack, Night Sorrow immediately used the Essence Chi Smoke Beacon, the star's tyrannical body, and the power of merit. He used the Samsara halberd to use the Samsara Strike. This move immediately weakened the bone ape's attack. However, last time, Night Sorrow's bones were all broken by the bone ape's foot. He didn't dare to take it head-on. After reducing the bone ape's attack, he didn't hesitate to use the Divine Origin Dragon-Locking Array. The Divine Origin Dragon-Locking Array isolated the ferocious bone ape in mid-air. The Divine Origin Dragon-Locking Array only trapped the bone ape for less than 5 breaths before it was completely shattered. However, Night Sorrow had already escaped from the Rift Valley and returned to the plains. Beside him, Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi were already prepared. At this time, Night Sorrow's divine soul was only a little shaken, but he wasn't seriously injured. However, he still pretended to be seriously injured and spat out a lot of blood. This blood contained the remains of his shattered lungs. Then he asked Yun Tianyi for 2 elixirs and swallowed them. It's coming. Watch me. Night Sorrow pretended to be injured. Yun Tianyi understood tacitly and shot out sword light to meet the bone ape. After absorbing the Divine King's blood essence, his strength had increased greatly. The strength of his aura was about the same as Huang Lai and Yun Sangping. However, it was naturally impossible to stop the half-step Divine Lord Realm Bone Ape with just this little bit of strength. Soon, the Bone Ape let out another roar and rushed over. Even Night Sorrow didn't dare to take the Bone Ape's attack head-on. Yun Tianyi was even more afraid. When he saw the Bone Ape chasing after him, he immediately retreated. At this time, Yao Shi, who was standing beside Night Sorrow, began to silently recite an incantation. She also took out a bronze bell from her waist. The bronze bell was activated by the incantation and immediately emitted Sanskrit sounds. These Sanskrit sounds seemed to turn into a line that constantly shot towards the bone ape and slowed it down. This way, Yin Tianyi was able to safely escape. Careful! The bone ape didn't chase after Yin Tianyi. It immediately chased after Yao Shi. Just like how it dealt with Night Sorrow. It jumped into the air and smashed down with its fists. Frost Brow Sword. Facing the bone ape's violent attack, Yao Shi, Night Sorrow, and Yin Tianyi made different choices. After she activated her god domain, she used the High God Taboo divine artifact, Frost Brow Sword, to take the bone ape's attack head-on. Careful, the bone ape's attack isn't simple. Chapter 2508. The last time, Night Sorrow was trampled by the bone ape, nearly ending up with the outcome of being smashed to smithereens. He was somewhat apprehensive of the bone ape's close-range attacks. Seeing that Yao Shi actually chose to receive this move head-on, he was naturally incomparably worried, afraid that she would suffer very serious injuries accidentally. If she was seriously injured this time, it might really let Chen Qiuyue find an opportunity. Rumble. The bone ape's movements were extremely fast. Yao Shi was also the same. Night Sorrow wanted to stop it, but it was naturally too late. In a blink of an eye, one person and one ape collided together. This time, it was indeed the bone ape that took the advantage, blasting the ground where Yao Shi was at until it caved in. For some time, it shook the surrounding several 100,000 miles until it shook nonstop. Yao Shi, are you alright? Smoke and dust billowed in the deep pit. At the same time that Night Sorrow used divine soul power to investigate, he transmitted his voice to Yao Shi to confirm her condition. I'm fine. My injuries aren't serious. But just nice, I can pretend to be seriously injured. My Frostbrow folding sword is known to cut through all men in the divine world. It never retreats in battle. If it retreats, it will affect the sword spirit. In the process of transmitting, Yao Shi explained why she forcefully withstood this attack. So that's how it is. Didn't expect that a person from a painting like you would actually be so domineering when fighting. After praising Night Sorrow, his hands were not idle. He fired out the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, temporarily trapping the bone ape, creating an opportunity for Yao Shi to escape. Thank you. This bone ape is rather hard to deal with. Probing slightly, Yao Shi discovered that this half-step Divine Lord Realm bone ape was seriously not easy to deal with to them, these feather gods. No worries. Although this bone ape's strength is formidable, its intelligence isn't high. This is its greatest weakness. As long as our tactics are reasonable, there's a chance to kill it. At present, it's still taking care of Chen Qiuyue first. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Yao Shi and shouted, Yao Shi is injured. Yin Tianyi, take her away. We can't fight this bone ape. We have to retreat immediately. Yao Shi took the bone ape's attack head-on. This was not fake at all, and the effect was already evident. Even Night Sorrow was unable to determine the extent of Yao Shi's injuries. He felt that this was enough. Alas, it seems that the key to the Bluestone Palace is not fated to be with us. This trip to the cave has come to an end. Yin Tianyi, who was protecting Yao Shi, shouted out the lines that Night Sorrow had designed. Their retreat route was in the opposite direction of the Bluestone Palace. This was the way back. Hee hee, Yao Shi, stop pretending. You just want to trick me into coming out. Your Majesty is here. What can you do? At this moment, to their surprise, Chen Qiuyue actually chose to show herself. She actually came out? Chen Qiuyue's sudden appearance surprised Night Sorrow, who was luring the bone ape away. At this moment, he realized that he had underestimated the courage of the top 10 experts on the God of Feathers list. Whether it was Yao Shi, who took the bone ape's attack head-on, or Chen Qiuyue, who appeared now, they both seemed to be people with courage. They could be considered as women who did not lose out to men. Since you've come out, then die. Yao Shi, who was still brooding over the naked battle, immediately waved her Frostbrow sword and attacked Chen Qiuyue. When she saw her appear, Io, are you unable to restrain your anger because you thought of the naked battle? Don't be afraid. Night Sorrow did not use the image stone to record it. This matter will not spread in the God realm. Chen Qiuyue did not forget to mock Yaoshi as she activated her God realm and blocked the attack with her red armillary sash. You deserve to die. Chen Qiuyue had brought up her sore spot, and Yaoshi's face, which had already been somewhat cold, was immediately covered in frost. She used her ultimate skill right away. Brow overturning sea sword. In an instant, the void was like a sea that had exploded. Countless ripples surged out and attacked Chen Qiuyue. Huh? Didn't you just let a man see your body? Do you have to fight so hard? Chen Qiuyue and Yaoshi were both ranked 9th on the God of Feathers list. Naturally, they were not afraid of Yaoshi using her ultimate technique. As the battle continued, she asked, "Was what Yin Tianyi said the truth? As long as we kill the bone ape, we can obtain the key to the stone palace, right? You're about to die. Why are you still asking these questions? Yin Tianyi, what are you doing in a daze? Come and help." At this moment, Night Sorrow was luring the bone ape away. Only Yin Tianyi was free. Yaoshi immediately asked him to help. Okay. Coming. Chen Qiuyue's words were very explosive. Yin Tianyi was still digesting them. Yi Shang had seen the body of Fairy Yaoshi, who was said to be as pure as ice and as pure as jade. Wasn't this a little too shocking? When he heard Yaoshi's call, he immediately activated his God realm and activated his ultimate technique, the non-phase sword array. Although he was not as strong as Yaoshi and Chen Qiuyue, the attack power of the sword array was not low. It immediately posed a threat to Chen Qiuyue. This half-step Divine Lord Realm Bone Ape is much stronger than an ordinary half-step Divine Lord Realm Cultivator. In particular, the strength of its body can even compare to some Divine Lords. With just the 3 of you, it is impossible to kill it. If Yin Tianyi's words are true, Your Majesty is willing to cooperate with you to kill it. As for our feud, we'll settle it in the Stone Palace. Chen Qiuyue, who was being attacked by the 2 of them, continued to speak while defending herself. We don't need your help. As long as we kill you and don't let you get in the way, it's fine. Yaoshi rejected Chen Qiuyue's suggestion without hesitation. She cultivated the Frost Brow sword. She was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. She could not tolerate sand in her eyes. Seeing that the 2 of them were still attacking her, Chen Qiuyue was gradually unable to resist. She shouted, Yin Jiannan, come out and help me block Yin Tianyi. Okay, Fairy Qiuyue. Upon hearing Chen Qiuyue's call, Yin Jiannan immediately flew over from tens of thousands of miles away to block Yin Tianyi. His strength was originally stronger than Yin Tianyi. He had only been injured by the phantom that day. Now that they were fighting, he quickly gained the upper hand. Yin Tianyi, oh Yin Tianyi, you've fused with the blood essence of the Divine King, but you're still so trashy. What a waste. Why don't I kill you today and refine you into an elixir? I don't believe that the powerhouse in your body will come out to save you every time. Yin Jiannan, who had suppressed Yin Tianyi, had a disdainful look on his face. What do you have to be arrogant about? You're just a loser. Just when Yin Tianyi didn't know how to refute, Night Sorrow, who had temporarily lured the bone ape away, returned to the battle. Without any hesitation, he directly used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock formation to fix Yin Jiannan in it. Then, he used the Samsara Halberd to attack with the Samsara Strike. Yin Jiannan, who was trapped in the enclosed space, had no chance to dodge at all. He was hit hard by this move. His aura immediately dropped by a level. Night Sorrow discovered that he could attack opponents in the Divine Essence Dragon Lock formation when he lured the bone ape away. Now he was using it on Yin Jiannan. Yin Tianyi, I'll leave him to you. I'll go help Yaoshi. Chapter 2509. Night Sorrow was obviously stronger than Yin Tianyi and had more tricks up his sleeve. After he joined the battle, Chen Qiuyue was quickly suppressed. You're dead meat. Yaoshi continuously slashed with her Frost Brow sword. Together with the bronze bell at her waist and Night Sorrow's attacks, Chen Qiuyue was completely at a disadvantage. She didn't even have the ability to fight back. I'm no match for you. But if you want to kill me, that's impossible. Chen Qiuyue, who was completely suppressed, had no ability to fight back. At this moment, she took out a crystal-clear jade talisman and scolded, "Both of you stop immediately. Otherwise, I'll immediately use the talisman in my hand." This jade talisman was a Sir God-level talisman. The aura that flowed around it made Night Sorrow feel as though he was being locked on by an ancient beast. "Chunchuya, don't think that you're the only one with a life-saving talisman." Night Sorrow couldn't do anything against a Sir God-level talisman. Yaoshi wasn't afraid. She also took out a jade talisman, which was also at the Sir God level. It was obvious that they were all outstanding existences in their sex, and they all had life-saving items on them. These two jade talismans were made by invincible Sir God level talismans. They were similar in power to the one Night Sorrow used to strengthen the Dark Demon Seal in the Endless Bone region. This kind of power was completely destructive to a feather god. "Why? Do you think I don't dare? My life in exchange for yours is definitely worth it." Chunchuya replied to Yaoshi, not to be outdone. After taking out her life-saving talisman, she was fearless. "If you dare, then do it." Yaoshi wasn't afraid at all. "If there's no deep hatred between the two of you, I think it's better for us to talk." Yaoshi and Chunchuya were at daggers drawn. If they were to use the invincible Divine Lord's divine talisman here, the immense power would very likely blow apart the seal on the soul-devouring beast clan in the Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave abode. In this way, not only would they die, but Haibei City would also suffer. Night Sorrow naturally didn't want to see this happen, so he immediately tried to persuade her. "That's right. Let me ask you, as long as we kill the bone ape, we can open the door to the Bluestone Palace, right?" After Night Sorrow spoke, Yaoshi put down the talisman in her hand. Chunchuya also put away the talisman, and asked the same question again. "That should be the case." Night Sorrow nodded and did not deny it. On the other side, Yin Jiannan and Yin Tianyi separated again when they saw the three of them stop fighting. Yin Jiannan stood behind Chunchuya, while Yin Tianyi returned to Night Sorrow's side. "If that's the case, why don't we work together to kill it? As for our competition, we can continue after we enter the Bluestone Palace. How about that?" Chunchuya said and added, "If you don't agree, I'll use the divine talisman immediately and choose to die together. However, if we can successfully enter the Bluestone Palace, I can swear that I won't use the life-saving talisman in the cave abode again. Let's study it." Night Sorrow felt that this matter was acceptable, but he didn't agree directly. He called Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi together and studied it. Yin Tianyi naturally didn't want to be killed by the divine talisman, so she chose to cooperate with them. "Chunchuya is crazy. She can do anything. We can only choose to cooperate with her this time." Yaoshi, who was discussing things with Night Sorrow and Yin Tianyi, didn't have the irrational look she had when she confronted Chunchuya. She had a bright future. Although she would rather break than bend, she didn't want to die without knowing why. "Since both of you have made such a choice, I naturally agree. We'll attack them after we enter the Bluestone Palace. As long as Chunchuya doesn't use the divine talisman, we have the ability to suppress her." Night Sorrow had absolute confidence in his own strength. At this time, Yaoshi said with some worry, "I know Chunchuya. She said that she won't use the divine talisman, which seems to be a concession, but in fact, she wants me to swear that I won't use the divine talisman. She probably found a very strong helper, and has the confidence to defeat us. It doesn't matter. I think as long as we cooperate well, we can defeat any kind of feather god. I still have a trump card that I haven't used yet." In response, Night Sorrow just smiled. In the process of luring the bone ape away, he had no choice but to come up with a new plan. Even the bone ape fell for it, and it was effective against any feather god cultivator. "Since you're so confident, we'll choose to cooperate with them." Yaoshi knew that Night Sorrow was the feather god of merit. He definitely wouldn't speak carelessly, so she nodded in agreement. Afterward, Yaoshi acted as the representative to communicate with Chunchuya. They both swore that when they entered the Bluestone Palace, neither the two of them nor the others beside them would use the divine talisman. "Since we've agreed, let's act immediately." After swearing the heavenly Tao oath, Chunchuya immediately said, "It'll be very difficult for us to kill the bone ape with our attacks. I have a half-step Divine Lord talisman here. As long as we use it well, we can severely injure it. After that, we'll use our own methods. We'll exhaust it to death. Alright, I have one here as well. We can use it together. Yaoshi wasn't stingy either. She took out another talisman from her bosom. As the two beauties of the Dark Moon Divine Realm, she and Chinqiuyue were important targets of the sex protection. They were much richer than Night Sorrow. Seeing the talismans they took out, Night Sorrow thought that he had to find a way to get a few after leaving the cave. They were definitely life-saving weapons. This time, let's attack together and kill it in the Rift Valley. The half-step Divine Lord Skeletal Ape was obviously a test left behind by the Divine Lord Jinyuan. After discussing the strategy, Night Sorrow said this and led the way to the Rift Valley. He had lured the bone ape to a hilly area in the Rift Valley and trapped it there. Alright, let's follow. Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi immediately followed. Chinqiuyue and Yin Jiannan looked at each other and followed. Not long after, the five of them found the bone ape and fought it. Not long after the battle began, Chinqiuyue used a half-step Divine Lord talisman and injured the arrogant bone ape. The injured bone ape had become extremely ferocious. It fought with the group like a madman. But after a while, it was injured by the talisman Yaoshi threw out. Its injury was even more serious. Soon, it was completely suppressed by Night Sorrow and the rest. Logically speaking, the battle should have ended very quickly. But when the bone ape was about to be killed, a phantom of the Divine Lord Jinyuan suddenly appeared and healed the bone ape's injury. He said to the group, "The bone ape is a test for you. You must kill it with your own strength. Only then will the door of the Greenstone Palace open." Divine Lord. Seeing the phantom of the Divine Lord Jinyuan again, Yin Tianyi, the only one present who was from Haibei City, was very excited. She bowed to him. In response, the phantom of the Divine Lord Jinyuan smiled and said, "Don't tarnish the reputation of Haibei City." After saying that, he completely disappeared from the world. Then the five of them started fighting the bone ape again. Chapter 25:10. What's going on? The skeletal ape has become so strong, and its aura is constantly rising. If this continues, it will probably advance to the Monarch God realm. During the battle, Chinqiuyue noticed that the skeletal ape's aura was getting stronger and stronger. She couldn't help but say worriedly, the skeletal ape was already so difficult to deal with now. If it advanced to the Monarch God realm, then they would never be able to obtain the key to the Greenstone Palace. The good things in the cave abode were most likely in the Greenstone Palace. How could she bear to give them up? It must be because we used the divine talisman to defeat the skeletal ape. Therefore, the monarch god increased the difficulty of the test. Yao Shi, who had just used the frost brow sword to perform the brow sea overturning sword, realized that her attack didn't have any effect. She was also shocked by the skeletal ape's strength. Yin Tianyi and Yin Jiannan's faces turned even uglier. The two of them were weaker and didn't dare to get within 10,000 miles of the skeletal ape. If they got too close to the skeletal ape, they would be suppressed by the deity domain and unable to move. If the skeletal ape gave up on Night Sorrow, Chinqiuyue, and Yao Shi and turned to attack one of them, no matter which one it attacked, they would be killed instantly. The skeletal ape's aura is rising very quickly. We have to kill it quickly. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Night Sorrow, who was cooperating with Yao Shi and Chinqiuyue to wear down the skeletal ape from a distance, also realized the seriousness of the situation. He shouted, "At this point, don't hold back anymore. Attack the skeletal ape with all your might. I will trap it. Also, if you can contact any friends, do it quickly. The skeletal ape is too strong. We can only rely on our advantage in numbers. I came alone, but from now on, I will give it my all." Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yao Shi was the first to speak. She had indeed entered the cave abode alone. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been tricked by Chinqiuyue. "Those who came in with me are all ants." Yin Jiannan, who was tens of thousands of miles away from the skeletal ape, shook his head and said, he had come with Ming Yu and the others. Those few did not have much battle power. and were currently hiding in a spirit design. Even if they were called over, they would not be able to help. Yin Tianyi came together with Night Sorrow, so she couldn't call for help. However, she was communicating with the Divine King of the Cloud Wilderness in her body to see if he had any ideas. However, she didn't get a response for the time being. Sigh. Nie Qingping, come out. When it was Chen Qiuyue's turn, she sighed unwillingly and called out a name. Nie Qingping. He was the third strongest cultivator in the Divine Feather realm in the Dark Moon region, ranked 16th on the Divine Feather list. Although he was slightly weaker than Shuang Jiao, he was still the strongest male cultivator in the Dark Moon region. Chen Qiuyue, so you came with Nie Qingping. No wonder you're so confident that you won't use your talisman again. Seeing Nie Qingping appear, Yao Shi's face suddenly became serious. Chen Qiuyue, Nie Qingping, and Yan Jiannan were the first, third, and fifth strongest cultivators in the Divine Feather realm in the Dark Moon region. No one dared to underestimate such a combination. At this point, she was very glad that she met Night Sorrow. Otherwise, with her own strength, she wouldn't be able to compete with Chen Qiuyue and the others. Fairy Yaoshi, long time no see. You're still as elegant as ever, but your strength doesn't seem to have improved. After Nie Qingping's figure appeared in front of everyone, he immediately greeted Yaoshi. There was a hint of provocation in his tone. He had once pursued Yaoshi, but she had mercilessly rejected him. That incident had made him hold a grudge. Now that he was teaming up with Chen Qiuyue, Nie Qingping felt that victory was in his hands. What does my strength have to do with you? If you want to enter the Greenstone Palace, then hurry up and attack. Yaoshi's face was grim as she continued to fight with the skeletal ape. At this moment, Night Sorrow was constantly using the Divine Essence Dragon Lock formation to imprison the skeletal ape and create opportunities for the cultivators present to attack. At first, the Divine Essence Dragon Lock formation could only restrain the skeletal ape for 2 to 3 breaths. Later on, it could only slow down its speed temporarily. Under Night Sorrow's delay, whether it was attacking Yaoshi or Chen Qiuyue, the skeletal ape was always a little slower at the critical moment. The two girls relied on the powerful attack power of their divine weapons to constantly exhaust the skeletal ape, making it very uncomfortable. Wait until we enter the palace. Yaoshi completely ignored Nie Qingping. This made his expression immediately turn ugly, but he still charged into the battle without hesitation. He attacked the insufferably arrogant bone ape. However, after using the divine weapon Qingping halberd to attack the skeletal ape 5 to 6 times, Nie Qingping realized that there was no effect at all. The skeletal ape's defense is so shocking. How can feather gods like us fight against it? I think Sir God Jinyuan is purposely not letting us enter the Greenstone Palace. Nie Qingping immediately questioned when his continuous attacks on the skeletal ape did not have any effect at all. He felt that although he did not use his full strength, it was definitely abnormal that he could not even break through the skeletal ape's defense. The Sir God must have his reasons for doing so. If we can't forcefully attack, then we will think of other ways. Night Sorrow immediately retorted when he heard Nie Qingping questioning Sir God Jinyuan. Sir God Jinyuan had suppressed the entire soul-devouring beast clan with his own strength. How could he fathom his strength? There must be a reason for such an arrangement. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk back to me, Nie Qingping? You must be tired of living. Nie Qingping was ranked 3rd among the feather gods in the dominating area of the Dark Moon. In his eyes, there were only Yaoshi and Chen Qiuyue. Night Sorrow only replied normally and he retorted with disdain. He was very arrogant. You can't even break through the skeletal ape's defense. What are you pretending for? If you have the ability to kill the skeletal ape, then let's go to the Greenstone Palace to fight. Yaoshi and Chen Qiuyue could break through the skeletal ape's defense and exhaust it with their full strength. However, Nie Qingping could not do that. It was completely useless. Night Sorrow retorted without hesitation after being provoked. Why do we need to go to the Greenstone Palace? It's the same if I kill you here. Nie Qingping, who was only 2,000 to 3,000 miles away from Night Sorrow, suddenly attacked with his halberd and went straight for Night Sorrow's head. His sneak attack was very sudden and no one present expected it. Nie Qingping, stop. Night Sorrow was the key to fighting against the skeletal ape. Seeing Nie Qingping attack, even Chen Qiuyue could not help but scold him. "You're courting death." After being attacked by Nie Qingping at close range, Night Sorrow could no longer use the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array. He immediately used the Void Escape technique and dodged the halberd. Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array. After dodging Nie Qingping's sneak attack, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array to control him. Then he used the Samsara halberd to attack with the Samsara strike. Nie Qingping, who was imprisoned in the enclosed space, could not dodge this attack at all. His aura was immediately reduced greatly. Raging Flame Subdue Demons. Forbidden Spear. After succeeding in his attack, Night Sorrow did not hesitate to use the Samsara halberd to attack the trapped Nie Qingping. Nie Qingping's sneak attack when everyone was fighting against the skeletal ape touched Night Sorrow's bottom line. Damn it! What kind of technique is this? After being trapped by Night Sorrow's Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array, and being hit by the Samsara Spear, his aura was greatly reduced. After being hit by the Forbidden Spear and Raging Flames Subdue Demons consecutively, Nie Qingping, who was almost half dead, immediately cursed in the enclosed space. This was the first time he met an opponent with such strange techniques, and was not used to it. Damn it! Break for me! Nie Qingping, who was using the Qingping halberd to attack the enclosed space, was sure that he would not be able to break out of the array in a short time. Chapter 25:11. You're quite rich. You actually used a divine talisman. Seeing Nie Qingping use a half-step Divine Lord Divine Talisman to blast open the sealed space, Night Sorrow cast the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array again without a word, imprisoning Nie Qingping once again. Each time he cast the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, it did not consume much Divine Essence energy, but it had to be combined with soul strength to cast, so he could only set up one at a time. But dealing with Nie Qingping, one was naturally enough. He was not afraid no matter how many half-step Divine Lord Divine Talismans he had in his hands. F***CK. Imprisoned in the sealed space once again, Nie Qingping was completely speechless. His Divine Talisman was a one-time consumable item. Discovering that Night Sorrow could continuously set up formations, how could he bear to use it again? He kept casting all sorts of mystic arts and ultimate skills, only hoping to escape quickly. Night Sorrow, hurry up and save him. Originally, Night Sorrow was prepared to continue attacking Nie Qingping and kill him directly. But at this time, Yaoshi suddenly shouted. At this time, the bone ape that broke free was charging crazily at Yun Tianyi. Under the interference of its divine domain, Yun Tianyi could no longer move. If no one saved him, he would die without a doubt. Merit Dragon Locking Array. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow was clear that just casting the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array could no longer stop the bone ape. He immediately used the power of Merit to replace Divine Essence energy, and cast the Merit Dragon Locking Array. This move, Night Sorrow used it once when luring the bone ape away. His power of Merit was already at peak Feather God realm, while his Divine Essence energy was only at middle rank Feather God realm. The difference between the two was huge. Using the power of Merit to cast a trapping array, the effect was much better. This was also the reason why he had the confidence to resist all the feather gods in the Bluestone Palace. Let's run. The matter of resisting the bone ape, we'll think about it at length. According to Night Sorrow's judgment, wanting to kill the bone ape with their strength was clearly not too likely. He flew to Yun Tianyi's side, saved him, and flew directly into the distance. Yaoshi followed closely behind. Because Chen Qiuyue's forces had obviously grown stronger, her cooperation with Night Sorrow had obviously become closer. Chen Qiuyue and Nie Qingping, who had just escaped, looked at each other. Then, together with Yin Jiannan, they followed behind the three of them. Taking advantage of the fact that the bone ape was locked up, everyone quickly flew away from the scene. When they reached the platform at the entrance of the Bluestone Palace, Night Sorrow stopped and put Yun Tianyi down. At this time, Yun Tianyi was gradually recovering. The bone ape's deity domain had suppressed him too miserably. Looking at Nie Qingping, who was following behind him, Night Sorrow raised his Samsara halberd and said, Everyone is trying their best to fight against the bone ape, but you sneakily attacked me from behind. Let's talk about this now. Night Sorrow, don't push me too far. I, Nye Qingping, am not as skilled as you. But if you don't stop, don't blame me for using a Divine Lord level talisman. Thinking of Night Sorrow's virtuous dragon-locking formation that restrained the bone ape, Nye Qingping completely lost the courage to fight. He took out a talisman to deter him. He couldn't break Night Sorrow's trap formation. Even if he fought 100 times, he would be beaten passively. Nye Qingping, put away the talisman. I'll help you solve this matter. Seeing Nye Qingping take out a Divine Lord level talisman, Chen Qiuyue immediately stopped him. After all, she had already made a heavenly oath that the people around her wouldn't use talismans. She couldn't easily break her promise. She looked at Night Sorrow and said, "We're temporarily in a cooperative relationship. In my opinion, it's best for you to turn this matter into a small one. After all, everyone still needs to find a way to deal with the bone ape. Although Nye Qingping isn't as strong as you, he's still very strong. He can be of great help." Chen Qiuyue was very wary of Night Sorrow's ability to use the power of merit to set up a formation. She spoke much more politely. Originally, she was the same as Nye Qingping. She looked down on Night Sorrow and felt that she could crush him to death with a stretch of her hand. But now, things were very different. I was ambushed for no reason. I can't let this matter rest. Night Sorrow didn't compromise in front of Chen Qiuyue. As he spoke, Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi stood beside him. He was wrong to ambush you. We're willing to compensate you, but you have to promise that you won't pursue this matter before entering the Blue Stone Palace. How about it? Chen Qiuyue was clearly very concerned about entering the Blue Stone Palace. She immediately compromised. Chen Qiuyue might have a special need for something in the Blue Stone Palace. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so easy to talk to. Yao Shi knew Chen Qiuyue very well. When she saw her compromise, she immediately transmitted her voice. She chose to compromise. We can demand an exorbitant price. Okay, I know. Night Sorrow knew that Chen Qiuyue had chosen to compromise so easily. She definitely had some ulterior motives. He thought for a moment and said, "It's fine if you're willing to compensate. Ask Nye Qingping to compensate me with the monarch-level talisman, and this matter will be over." What? You want the monarch-level talisman? Dream on. Believe it or not, I'll blast you to death right now. Hearing Night Sorrow directly ask for the monarch-level talisman, Nye Qingping immediately flew into a rage. This was his life-saving talisman. He wouldn't give it away no matter what. Who do you think you are? You're just a loser. You don't have the right to speak to me. Night Sorrow didn't change anything. He returned Nye Qingping's words to him, then ignored him. He looked at Chen Qiuyue and said, "What do you say? You're clearly demanding an exorbitant price. Nye Qingping naturally can't give you something that can save his life." Chen Qiuyue's face was filled with anger. She calmed down and said, "We can give you a half-step monarch-level talisman. This is already the biggest concession we can make. If you're still not satisfied, then we can only end our cooperation and fight you. Although I said that I won't use the talisman again, you're definitely not my match. Zhuaheng, come out and meet us." As soon as Chen Qiuyue spoke, a figure flew down from the top of the Blue Stone Palace. Zhuaheng, ranked 19th on the God of Feathers list. You've also joined Chen Qiuyue's side. Yao Shi's expression changed when she saw Zhuaheng. Zhuaheng was ranked 19th on the God of Feathers list and 4th in the Dark Moon region. Even he had been invited by Chen Qiuyue. Now Chen Qiuyue's lineup was ranked 1st, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the Dark Moon region. This lineup could be said to be extremely luxurious. At this point, Yao Shi was somewhat relieved that she had met Night Sorrow. At the same time, she was also a bit scared. 3 half-step monarch-level talismans. Otherwise, there's no need to talk. Yao Shi transmitted her voice to Night Sorrow to inform him of Zhuaheng's situation. Night Sorrow's expression didn't change as he continued to ask for compensation. It was obviously impossible for him to ask for a monarch-level talisman. His goal was 3 half-step monarch-level talismans. Alright, 3 then. But I hope you can do your best to think of a way to kill the bone ape. Nye Qingping originally wanted to bargain, but Chen Qiuyue indicated that there was no need. She took out 3 half-step monarch-level talismans and handed them to Night Sorrow. She had clearly made ample preparations for this trip to the cave. Okay. Night Sorrow was quite satisfied with obtaining 3 half-step monarch-level talismans. He kept 2 and handed one to Yun Tianyi, saying, "Keep it to save your life." He looked at the others and said, "Actually, I asked everyone to retreat because I suddenly had an idea." "What idea? Don't keep us in suspense." Chen Qiuyue immediately scolded. "I just trapped Nie Qingping and used the Samsara strike to weaken his cultivation. I immediately thought of a similar method to weaken the bone ape's strength." Chapter 25:12. Speaking of this, Night Sorrow recalled what Mo Yuqian had said. He felt that the danger Divine Lord Jinyuan faced back then must have been even more difficult. Under such circumstances, if Divine Lord Jinyuan could suppress all the soul-devouring beasts, why couldn't they kill the bone ape? If they could not even solve such a test, they were indeed not qualified to receive Divine Lord Jinyuan's inheritance. Although Divine Lord Jinyuan had been cheated of many resources by Wuxin, as a genius in alchemy, weapon forging, and array formation, he was definitely not poor. Those resources must be in the Greenstone Palace. That makes sense. You really woke me up from my stupor. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Chen Qiuyue was enlightened. But then she said, "But how do we have the ability to set up an array formation that can weaken the bone ape's strength? It's indeed difficult to set it up with our own abilities. But I feel that the Divine Lord must have left behind some clues. Maybe there's an array formation that can suppress the bone ape somewhere in the plane. It's just that we haven't discovered it yet." The bone ape's strength was constantly increasing. This allowed Night Sorrow to deduce some of Divine Lord Jinyuan's intentions. After he spoke, everyone felt that it made sense. So they split into 2 groups to search for clues. Soon, 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. However, they did not gain much. Today, the bone ape's strength was infinitely close to the Divine Lord realm, and its aura was still increasing. It could break through at any time. This gave them a lot of pressure. On this day, Night Sorrow was discussing countermeasures with the others in the Greenstone Palace. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin suddenly found them and told them about their discovery. After Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin lost to Night Sorrow, they started to hide in the cave abode. The 2 of them were proficient in array formations. Otherwise, they would not have been able to set up an exquisite trapping array that could only be broken by force at the cave abode's passageway. In the process of escaping, they happened to be on the mountain peak, and saw that the entire plain seemed to be a natural array. The center of the array was in the Rift Valley where the bone ape was. However, with the bone ape guarding it, they could not get close. The reason why they brought this up was because they knew that killing the bone ape would open the door to the Bluestone Palace, and they wanted to get a share of the loot. He also hoped that this would resolve the enmity between him and Night Sorrow. "If what you said is true, then we're even." Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin's expertise in arrays had obviously been taught by famous teachers. They were not to be underestimated. Night Sorrow was overjoyed when he heard the news. He hurried with them to the mountain peak where everyone had been before. Standing on the mountain peak and activating the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow immediately saw the formation of the array. It seemed to be a huge 9 dragons guard pearl array. The core was the pearl. After it was opened, it could activate the 9 dragon veins and completely activate the formation. This kind of formation requires 10 people to work together to activate. One person activated the central hub, while the other 9 stood on top of the dragon vein and cooperated. However, we only have 9 people here. We still need one more. This formation was indeed majestic, encompassing the entire plains. However, the formation patterns were actually similar to those on the gravel and rocks, as well as the divine origin dragon locking formation. With the help of the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow soon saw the clues. After explaining, he continued, "We have to find at least one more invincible feather god to cooperate with us. It would be even better if we could find 2. We know where Huang Lai and Yin Sungping are. They're trapped in a hidden array." Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Ji Hao immediately said, "Take me there." Huang Lai and Yin Sungping had helped Night Sorrow before. After learning about them, Night Sorrow immediately went to rescue them with Ji Hao. Huang Lai and Yun Songping were naturally very grateful to Night Sorrow for rescuing them from the trap array. They also asked how Night Sorrow had survived. From their words, Night Sorrow learned that Qing Mingzi and Mingju had died in the trap array because they weren't strong enough. He was somewhat emotional. Then, he told them how he got out and mentioned the current situation. Both Huang Lai and Yun Songping were surprised by this. This was because there were too many Divine Feather Realm Masters who had rushed to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave residence. Almost all of the top 11 Masters in the Dark Moon Dominator's area were captured. I'll be responsible for restraining the Bone Ape for this operation. Returning to the platform in front of the Bluestone Palace, Night Sorrow immediately made arrangements. Ji Hao will be in charge of the central hub. Yao Shi, Chen Qiuyue, Nie Qingping Zuaheng, Yin Jianan, Yin Tianyi, Leng Mingxin, Huang Lai, and Yun Songping. Each of you will be in charge of a dragon vein. After that, he began to explain the details of the spirit formation in detail. Then he led everyone to where they were supposed to be. No one objected to this arrangement. After all, none of them had the ability to face the Bone Ape alone. They had to rely on Night Sorrow to restrain it. After making arrangements for Yao Shi, Chen Qiuyue, and the others, Night Sorrow led Ji Hao, who was obviously very nervous, to the Rift Valley where the Bone Ape was. Besides Night Sorrow, Ji Hao was the one who knew the array the best. He needed to attract the Bone Ape's firepower, so the central hub could only be left to Ji Hao. Don't be nervous. You just have to find a way to activate the central hub of the array. I'll deal with the Bone Ape. Seeing that Ji Hao was very nervous, Night Sorrow comforted him on the way. This matter was related to the remaining 11 invincible feather gods in the cave. None of them could make a mistake. Otherwise, they would definitely fail. He didn't want Ji Hao to make a mistake because of nervousness. Okay, I'll try my best. Ji Hao was also an invincible divine emperor. However, he had stood in the distance and watched Night Sorrow and the others fight with the Bone Ape. He was deeply afraid of the Bone Ape. You don't have to face the Bone Ape directly. You don't have to be so nervous. Tell me when you're ready. We're only 30,000 miles away. The Bone Ape will sense us soon. As they were getting closer to the Rift Valley, Night Sorrow gave the final instructions. Then he activated the Essence Smoke, Star's mighty body, and took the Samsara halberd in his hand. He was ready to fight. Phew. I'm ready. Let's go. When they were about to reach the Rift Valley, Ji Hao took a deep breath and made up his mind. At this moment, he admired Night Sorrow, who could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. Remember, don't use the Divine Talisman unless it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, even if we can kill the Bone Ape, we won't get the key to the Greenstone Palace. Before he attacked, Night Sorrow told Ji Hao one last time. Then he flew to the top of the Rift Valley. Flying above the Rift Valley, Night Sorrow immediately saw the Bone Ape wandering in the Rift Valley. Not only was the Bone Ape's aura very strong, but it also had golden fur. Under the illumination of the golden divine domain, it seemed indestructible. The mace in its hand had become much stronger after years of nourishment. Roaring flames subdue demons. The Bone Ape's aura was very terrifying, but Night Sorrow still attacked without hesitation. This time he didn't need to resist. He only needed to lead the Bone Ape away. After that, he flew away. Human monk, it's you again. This time you'll die for sure. The Bone Ape's intelligence seemed to have increased a lot. It immediately recognized Night Sorrow when it saw him. Chapter 25:13. The skeleton-like Bone Ape had turned into a golden ape. Its voice was cold and domineering. As it jumped, it waved its mace that was glowing with cold light. In the past, the Bone Ape jumped clumsily. Every time it landed, the ground would tremble. Now it was like a dragonfly skimming the water. It did not make much noise when it landed, and its speed was much faster. After a few 100,000 miles, it was only 30,000 miles away from Night Sorrow. It is indeed much harder to deal with than before. However, it is not difficult to hold you back for a while. Night Sorrow, who was constantly being approached by the Bone Ape, led it into various arrays set up by Sir God Jinyuan. However, no matter if it was an illusion array, a maze array, a trap array or a killing array, they could not slow down the bone ape. Its strength had completely surpassed the level of these arrays. It could easily break the arrays with its strength. You can't run away. These arrays were set up for the feather god. They cannot stop this king. Eat this king's mace. After chasing for a while, when the bone ape was only 5,000 miles away from Night Sorrow, it immediately activated its divine territory. It raised its mace and smashed it with murderous intent. The originally muddle-headed bone ape had started to call itself this king. This was a huge change in its intelligence. It was still adapting to other aspects. For example, at this moment, when it was chasing Night Sorrow, it had only used its divine core power, and not its divine soul power. Divine core dragon lock array. However, even so, Night Sorrow was still under a lot of pressure, as the divine core power of the bone ape was infinitely close to that of a real Sir God. Its divine territory was extremely powerful. Being enveloped by its god territory, Night Sorrow felt like he had fallen into a quagmire. Although he had activated his essence chi smoke signal, Star's tyrant body, and his god territory, it didn't have any effect. He could only use the divine origin dragon locking formation to slow down the bone ape. Roar! However, the bone ape only roared and it immediately shattered the sealed space. The divine core dragon lock array was obviously not strong enough to trap the bone ape. Seeing that it had caught up to him again, Night Sorrow immediately used the virtuous dragon lock formation. Only then did he manage to temporarily trap the raging bone ape. Taking advantage of the fact that the bone ape was trapped, Night Sorrow hurriedly used Vanishing Shadow to fly up into the sky. The bone ape had always been jumping, so Yi Shan suspected that it might not be able to fly. Human cultivator, you have successfully angered this king. A few breaths later, the bone ape broke out of the formation. Seeing through Night Sorrow's thoughts, it immediately soared into the air and chased after him again. It turned out that it didn't fly out of habit. How is Ji Hao? I can't hold on for much longer. The bone ape could fly, and its flying speed was very fast. It was obviously faster than Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow could not help but send a telepathic message to Ji Hao. Knowing that the time it would take the skeletal ape to break the virtuous dragon locking formation was getting shorter and shorter. Hopefully he would be faster. After all, the other 9 dragon veins could only be activated if he opened the core of the formation. I have already reached the core of the formation, but I don't seem to have enough divine essence to activate the formation. Before everyone took action, they had already sworn a heavenly Tao oath that they would work together before entering the Greenstone Palace. Ji Hao replied to Night Sorrow. It was not that he did not want to activate the core of the formation on purpose. It was just that he did not have enough divine essence. Are you sure that you don't have enough divine essence to activate the core of the formation? Night Sorrow, who was under great pressure, was much slower than the bone ape. Gradually he began to fly downwards. Furthermore, the frequency of using the virtuous dragon locking formation increased significantly, because the bone ape was breaking the formation faster and faster. I'm afraid that only Chen Qiuyue or Yao Shi can activate the core of the formation. Ji Hao quickly replied. According to his judgment, to activate the core of the formation, one would need to be a top-tier existence among the feather gods. Then what are you waiting for? Send a telepathic message to Yao Shi and tell her to hurry over. Night Sorrow instructed in annoyance. Now that the situation had changed, the pressure on his shoulders became even greater. If he was not careful, his divine essence would be destroyed. Roar! Roar! The bone ape, who had been continuously controlled by Yi Shang's virtuous dragon locking formation, was unable to use its full strength. Night Sorrow, who was continuously controlling the bone ape, was not happy at all. In the beginning, the virtuous dragon locking formation could only lock the bone ape for 3 to 4 breaths. Now, it could only lock it for 1 breath. If this continued, the virtuous dragon locking formation would not be able to restrain the bone ape sooner or later. At that time, if the formation was still not activated, his life would be in danger. Yaoshi, where are you? After a while, the formation was almost no longer effective on the bone ape. Night Sorrow could not help but send a telepathic message to Yaoshi. At this moment, the pressure he was under was increasing. Almost there. Another 100,000 miles. Yaoshi was well aware of the kind of pressure Yishan was shouldering. After recovering, she immediately used a secret art to increase her strength several times over, speeding towards the center of the formation. It's over. The bone ape is completely free. The moment Yaoshi recovered, the bone ape was completely immune to the virtuous dragon-locking formation. After being trapped for so long, the bone ape went berserk. Oh, this king is going to tear you apart, human cultivator. Completely free. It even threw down the mace in its hands and chased after Night Sorrow. In terms of speed, Night Sorrow was no match for the bone ape and was caught up in no time. What can I do? Against the menacing bone ape, Night Sorrow could not help but think of a countermeasure. Go to hell. The bone ape hated Night Sorrow to the core. When it caught up to him, it smashed its fists down. It was huge and looked like a mountain in front of Night Sorrow. Locked in by the bone ape's divine territory, Night Sorrow immediately found it difficult to move. He could not even fly. The situation had reached a critical juncture. Boom. Before Night Sorrow could think, the bone ape's fist had already smashed down. Night Sorrow, who was locked in place and could not even travel through the void, could only use all his moves except the 7-star rage to block the fist. Crack. Night Sorrow's right arm, which was holding the spear, was directly broken because of the collision. His soul was dizzy from the bombardment. Several cracks appeared around the heavenly Samsara halberd. If the Samsara halberd had not absorbed most of the impact, Night Sorrow would have broken many of his bones. If this goes on, I'm afraid I'll be killed. The Samsara halberd's damage made Night Sorrow's heart ache. However, he could not care less at this moment, and kept thinking of a countermeasure. If he could not think of a way, he would undoubtedly be smacked to death. Got it. After the bone ape's attack, it lifted its leg and stomped over. At this moment, Night Sorrow had an idea. He thought of the formation patterns he had learned in the passageway. He thought to himself, maybe I can set up that kind of formation pattern and drill into the sand. That way, I can probably continue to delay. With this thought, Night Sorrow immediately drew the formation pattern on a grain of sand in the distance. When the bone ape's foot stomped down, Night Sorrow's figure had already appeared in the sand, and just happened to dodge the attack. At this moment, he had completely retracted his divine origin energy and power of merit, reducing his aura to the weakest. Roar. With one stomp, Night Sorrow actually disappeared into thin air. This made the bone ape so angry that it roared. Where did you hide? Unable to sense Night Sorrow's aura, the bone ape began to frantically stomp on the position where Night Sorrow had just disappeared. At this moment, Night Sorrow was only 100 miles away from his previous position. He could clearly feel every attack of the bone ape. Let's see where you can hide. The bone ape that was stomping around in a frenzy suddenly stopped attacking as it remembered the power of spirit. Chapter 25:14. Not good. The skeletal ape's consciousness is so powerful that I've been discovered. Since he had been discovered, Night Sorrow immediately emerged from the gravel to continue searching for his next target. However, he discovered that the skeletal ape's consciousness had completely locked onto him. There was no way to escape. Use the 7-star Berserk Alcade? No, I'll soon suffer a backlash if I use it. Even if I can last until the formation activates and kill the skeletal ape, I'll definitely be targeted by others. Apart from Yao Shi, Yun Tianyi, Huang Lai and Yun Tsangping, Night Sorrow had encountered some sort of situation before. He had no choice but to be on guard. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow used the boundless body tempering art to absorb the energy in his right arm, and used the 7-star Berserk Fecta to increase his strength by 3 times. After his strength increased, he tried to combine his divine Yuan Qi and virtuous energy to use the dragon-locking formation again. Surprisingly, he was able to control the skeletal ape. Roar! The skeletal ape was on the verge of collapse after being controlled again. This time, it used almost a breath to break free. Night Sorrow hadn't run very far while the skeletal ape was trapped. After escaping, he immediately jumped up and attacked. Freeze! Night Sorrow knew that the longer he delayed, the more hope he had. He didn't hesitate to use the dragon-locking formation again. However, this time, the skeletal ape was completely immune to the dragon-locking formation. How can this be? Night Sorrow was very surprised that the skeletal ape was completely immune to the dragon-locking formation. He could only choose to take the skeletal ape's punch head-on. Boom! Night Sorrow, who had been prepared for his body to be smashed to pieces, didn't expect that the skeletal ape would be the one sent flying after this collision. He was completely unharmed. 9 dragons to the heavens. The formation has already been activated. At this moment, Night Sorrow raised his head to look at the distant plains. He discovered that 9 massive dragons had already risen into the air above. These dragons were quietly floating in the sky, guarding a pearl above the valley. However, they had weakened the skeletal ape to the level of a low-level high god. Kill. The bone ape, whose strength had suddenly been weakened, seemed to have lost its intelligence as it mindlessly attacked Night Sorrow. However, its strength had already been weakened to such an extent. How could it be a match for Night Sorrow? After a few rounds, he was completely killed. Night Sorrow was surprised that the insufferably arrogant bone ape had become so weak after being weakened. However, he didn't have the time to think too much about it. After the bone ape died, it immediately turned into a golden key. Beside the key was a key fragment. This fragment was similar to the one he had obtained from the hall. It was clearly a fragment of the same key. In addition, beside the key and the key fragment was a fist-sized blue energy crystal core. This energy crystal core contained an extremely powerful god Yuan Qi. It was clearly the energy source of the bone ape. Next to the blue energy crystal core was a black crystal that contained soul power. They're all good stuff. After putting away the key and the key fragment, Night Sorrow thought for a moment, and put away the black crystal core. Then he threw the blue energy crystal core into the Samsara halberd, allowing it to absorb energy to repair the halberd. Not long after, the Samsara halberd was completely repaired. Its aura was even stronger than before. Yaoshi, how are things on your side? I've already got the key. Yin Tianyi, how are things on your side? I've already got the key. After repairing the Samsara halberd, Night Sorrow immediately transmitted his voice to Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi. They had exchanged voice transmission stones, and could communicate over long distances. I'm collecting the magic pearl in the center of the formation. The energy it contains is very pure. It's definitely something good. Yaoshi's voice immediately came from the voice transmission stone. It's good that you've got the key. I'm refining the dragon crystal core. Yin Tianyi's situation was similar to Yaoshi's. He was refining the dragon crystal core. Actually, they weren't the only ones who obtained good stuff. Chen Chuyue and the rest were the same. All of them obtained benefits. All of them chose to refine it on the spot. I'll wait for you at the entrance of the Greenstone Palace. The key is with me. We'll take the initiative. After receiving Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi's reply, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to them, and flew back to the entrance of the Greenstone Palace. No matter what, they had relied on everyone's strength to successfully obtain the key. Night Sorrow didn't choose to secretly use the key to open the door. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground and recovered from his injuries. After a while, Night Sorrow, who had suffered the backlash of the 7 Stars Berserk, was obviously weakened. He didn't have any extra divine essence energy to repair his right arm. At this moment, his right arm had returned to its normal shape. However, he couldn't use it for battle. Looks like I can only wait for Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi to come and ask them for some healing elixirs. Night Sorrow's elixirs had all been crushed into powder by the skeletal ape and scattered in the void. He didn't have any elixirs with him now. Not long after, the other 10 invincible feather gods arrived at the entrance of the Greenstone Palace. Chen Chuyue immediately looked at Night Sorrow and asked, "Did you get the key?" "I got it." Night Sorrow nodded. The atmosphere on the platform became subtle because of these 2 simple sentences. Nie Qingping seemed to be a little restless. Yan Jianan also secretly began to condense divine essence energy. Since you got the key, then decide who will open the palace door. After confirming that Night Sorrow had the key, Chen Chuyue immediately used his divine domain and spoke sharply. I was the one who thought of the plan. I was the one who delayed the skeletal ape. I was also the one who got the key. Naturally, I will be the one to open the palace. Night Sorrow responded coldly to Chen Qiuyue's words. He had risked his life to deal with the skeletal ape. The others had only expended some divine essence energy. Naturally, he should be the one to open the palace door. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin were the ones who thought of the plan. The skeletal ape was killed by our combined efforts. Why should you be the one to open the palace door? If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over the key. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Nie Qingping, who had suffered at the hands of Night Sorrow, immediately stood up. If I hadn't lured the skeletal ape away, you would never have had the chance to enter the Greenstone Palace. This is logic. If you don't want to talk, then let's fight. Night Sorrow immediately activated his divine domain and prepared to attack. Yao Shi and Yin Tianyi immediately gathered around Night Sorrow and activated their divine domains as well. There's no need to fight. We have a total of 11 feather gods here. Let's vote to decide who will open the palace door. We all swore that we wouldn't fight before entering the palace. Let's settle this through voting. Chen Qiuyue smiled coldly and said, "Those who support me in opening the palace door, stand behind me." After she finished speaking, Nie Qingping, Zhua Heng, and Yan Jiannan immediately stood behind her. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin hesitated for a moment before standing on their side. Even Huang Lai and Yin Sungping chose to support her. Chapter 25:15. Huang Lai Yin Sungping. I didn't expect the two of you to stand on Chen Qiuyue's side. Night Sorrow wasn't surprised that the others stood on Chen Qiuyue's side. He couldn't help but sigh when he saw Huang Lai and Yin Sungping stand on Chen Qiuyue's side without hesitation. They could have been friends, but it seemed like they would soon have to fight to the death. They could share the opportunity they found, but they could only fight to the death if they stood on the opposite side. Night Sorrow. Although you saved the two of us from the trapping array, you're wise. The three of you obviously don't have the strength to fight against Fairy Qiuyue. Aren't Songping and I looking for death by standing on your side? From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. If you don't hand over the key to Fairy Qiuyue, don't blame me for being merciless. After choosing to stand on Chen Qiuyue's side, Huang Lai immediately showed hostility toward Night Sorrow. In his opinion, Chen Qiuyue's lineup was almost the top 10 in the Feather God realm in the Dark Moon Dominators area. Yao Shi, Night Sorrow, and Yin Tianyi weren't enough. Hand over the palace key, or you'll die a horrible death. Yin Songping also scolded. Following Chen Qiuyue was the result of his and Huang Lai's research. Good, very good. We'll fight again if we meet again. Seeing Huang Lai and Yin Songping's performance, Night Sorrow raised his hand and applauded them. Haha. 8-3, there's no doubt about it. Your Majesty has won. Night Sorrow, hand over the key. Chen Qiuyue laughed out loud. The person who entered the Greenstone Palace first might have a special opportunity. Now that she had an obvious advantage in strength, she was in a good mood. So what if it's 8-3? The key is in my hands, and I have veto power. Yao Shi Tianyi, let's go. Night Sorrow didn't approve of Chen Qiuyue's so-called vote at all. After he and Yao Shi sent a voice transmission to Yin Tianyi, he used the Merit Dragon Locking Array to trap Chen Qiuyue. Together with Yao Shi and Yin Tianyi, they rushed to the entrance of the Bluestone Palace. Chen Qiuyue was trapped. Everyone wanted to stop her, but they were all afraid that they would be killed by Yao Shi. No one dared to rush to the front. They all used their divine weapons and attacked Night Sorrow, Yao Shi, and Yin Tianyi. Break. Yao Shi immediately used her Frostbrow sword to create a rain of swords in the face of the oncoming divine weapons and divine light. This attack was very domineering. The energy ripples sent all the divine artifacts flying. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who seized the opportunity, instantly opened the door of the Bluestone Palace. The moment the door of the Bluestone Palace opened, an extremely rich divine spirit chi spewed out. It made people feel very comfortable. Night Sorrow, who was looking through the door into the palace, immediately reminded them, these are all good things. Let's rush in quickly. At this moment in the palace, one could see elixirs or treasures at any random glance. Clearly, The treasures of Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave abode had been completely opened. Alright, let's go. Yaoshi had expended a lot of energy in her previous attack. When she heard Night Sorrow's words, she immediately sheathed her sword and rushed into the palace with him. Night Sorrow, Yaoshi, and Yin Tianyi had a tacit understanding. They didn't stay on the first floor of the palace to collect the elixirs or divine weapons. Instead, they ran straight for the palace's staircase. When they entered the palace, they realized that they couldn't fly. They could only run with their movement techniques. Damn it, it's so frustrating. I saw a bunch of good things, but I can't collect them. As they ran to the second floor, Yin Tianyi cursed indignantly. Don't be anxious. The good things must be at the back. Let's explore first. There's no rush to take action. Night Sorrow didn't think much of it. He felt that although the items in the hall on the first floor weren't bad, they were still slightly inferior to supreme-grade items. That seems to be the case. However, giving the items to them feels like running away. I don't feel good about it, Yin Tianyi complained. If we were in our peak condition, even if it was 3 against 8, we would still be able to fight. However, when I was fighting against the bone ape, I suffered a serious backlash from using a mystic technique. I also lost an arm, and am in a very bad state. Night Sorrow explained and said, Does any of you have elixirs that can quickly recover from injuries? If you want to fight, I just need to recover. I have some divine soul recovery elixirs here. I'll give you 4. Yaoshi was relatively wealthy. She immediately handed Night Sorrow 4 elixirs. Thank you. This is just what I need. Night Sorrow didn't argue. He took the divine soul recovery elixirs and swallowed 2. He quickly recovered completely. At this time, the 3 of them had rushed up the stairs to the 7th floor. Chen Qiuyue and the others didn't chase after them. Let's take a look first. How many floors does this Bluestone Palace have? Then we'll make other plans. The Bluestone Palace's exterior seemed to be towering into the clouds, but they couldn't tell how many floors there were. Night Sorrow felt that they could first reach the top and take a look at the number of floors. Once they had an idea, they could turn back and do other things. Yes, that's fine. I agree. Yin Tianyi immediately agreed. However, she then said unhappily, however, if there are more floors, those B***cheese might gain a lot of benefits. Don't worry. We'll give them a surprise soon. In response, Night Sorrow's lips curled into a smile. He continued to climb up with Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi. Finally, they found that this Bluestone Palace had 33 floors. 33 floors seems to have a special meaning. On the top floor, Yaoshi said as she looked at the blurry scene in the palace. What special meaning? Yin Tianyi immediately asked curiously. My master said that the God Realm once had a king-grade divine artifact called the Temple of the 33 Days. The Temple of the 33 Days he described is very similar to this palace. I suspect that this Bluestone Palace is the Temple of the 33 Days. Yaoshi's expression was elegant as she softly voiced her suspicions. If that's the case, then the most important treasure in this Bluestone Palace is the Bluestone Palace itself. Yaoshi's words made Night Sorrow's heart skip a beat. However, he also knew that it was very difficult to make a king-grade divine artifact recognize him as its master. At this moment, Night Sorrow thought of the sky-piercing bone pagoda in the endless bone realm. They were too far away now, so he couldn't sense the situation in the bone pagoda. No one who made the sky-piercing bone pagoda recognize him, as its master had a good ending. This matter had always been weighing on his mind. It is indeed a treasure. However, if we want to take it, we'll probably have to go through some trouble. What should we do next? The king-grade divine artifact was too far away for Yin Tianyi to be interested. He only wanted to find some opportunities as soon as possible to increase his strength. Our next step is naturally to give Chen Qiuyue and the others a surprise. They have the advantage in overall strength. If we encounter them, they will definitely kill us. There's no need for us to be polite. Night Sorrow's body was filled with a strong fighting spirit. He said domineeringly, Let's turn back now and catch them off guard. When facing the bone ape, he had always chosen to control it and escape. He had been suppressing a fire in his heart. He wanted to have a good battle to completely release it. Otherwise he wouldn't feel good. All right, let's destroy them. We'll carefully search the entire palace. Yaoshi, who was also filled with fighting spirit, responded fearlessly. Night Sorrow gave her a lot of confidence. Should we fight to the death or retreat after the sneak attack? Yun Tianyi asked excitedly as the battle was about to begin. Our bottom line is to ensure our own safety. We'll see how the battle develops. I think it's best to kill them all in one fell swoop. After saying this, Night Sorrow walked in front. As he walked, he sent voice transmissions to Yaoshi and Yun Tianyi to discuss the specific battle strategy. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.